Yeah, I can edit out most of that sort of shit.
In the first aeon, I was the Great Spirit. In the second aeon, men knew me as the Horned God, Pangenitor, Panphage. In the third aeon, I was the Dark One, the Devil. In the fourth aeon, men knew me not, for I am the Hidden One. In the fifth aeon, I appeared before you as Baphomet, the god before all gods who shall endure to the end of the earth. In this new aeon, I appear to you as CMN.
Imagine that there is a brilliant white light just above.
Is commentary on the magic art.
In the years of the primal force, and the dawn of terrestrial birth.
Oh, that was very educational.
Now magic will take place. Don't be fooled by what I just said.
Welcome, everyone. I am Staged Mysticism Kennedy, and this is Chaos Magic News, the only podcast that has personally verified its gnosis beforehand to save you some time. Joining me, as always, is my caliphate co-host, Ayatollah. How are you doing, Ayatollah? He's ashamed of himself, listeners.
I'm ashamed of this name. Yeah, I wish I had a follow-up joke or anything for this, but yeah,
just blistering silence.
Ayatollah. Yeah, that's it. That's my name this week, guys. Enjoy it.
Also joining us is someone super duper special, and we're so pumped to have him on. We have Benny Adeline from the Adeline. Sorry, you asked me to pronounce it correctly, and I still mispronounced it. We have Benny Adeline.
Hi.
Hey, how are you doing, Benny?
Yeah, I was doing great until I heard the why I always follow the joke, and now I'm not. I'm kind of like upset, but not having a good time. But hopefully we can turn it around.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks for coming on. Really fun to have you. The genesis of this topic comes from us just actually bullshitting with each other. So buckle up, folks. We're gonna have a fun one. You two, I have a question for you. Have you noticed that there are people in the occult that are like just grifting money?
What?
Is that a thing? Apparently, I just found out today.
A grifter. Now, what do you mean by a grifter? Like, what does it mean to grift, as it were?
Well, grifting is attempting to essentially scam people out of money, usually by some sort of insincerity.
And that works?
I'm told so, yeah. I'm told it happens quite often, in fact.
Do the Jasons know about this?
The Jasons?
Both of them?
I like how we're grouping them together.
Aren't they brothers?
No.
Yeah,
I thought Jason was a family name.
I need to find someone I can pay to protect me from grifters and magic. I need to find somebody who can do that for me.
Okay, all right.
Listeners, I'm just saying that if you give us $5 a month on the Patreon,
oh God,
you will be defended from the negative grift energies and grift magics that are being cast on you by God knows what sort of Jasons.
Okay, all right. Serious for time. This was spurred on by us having a lot of conversation, especially given the recent content we've put out. Just a lot of conversation about the levels of grift we have in occultism, because it's way more of a spectrum than you would imagine. Because the obvious easy grift, right, that we associate with the occultism is like your fake guru type, right? The person that's like, hey, I'm going to show you all of this deep spiritual, magical insight. In the common age, it's very much like, oh, hey, I'm a fucking, what was that guy named? What was that guy's name? Goodney Gunderson or whatever, and he had like a billion fucking titles. He was
callback
High Pontiff of the Round Table, member of the Brotherhood of the Big Forehead. You know, just a billion.
Double Odin.
Yeah, double Odin.
Two.
That was a guy that just used those qualifications and be like, please now send me $500 and I will give you a spiral bound notebook that contains the secrets of the universe. Then there's people like S-Rob, where S-Rob's MO seems to be just putting out a bunch of very poorly made little bitty books to try to make money by 1,000 cuts, you know? It's like, each one of them is only about $10-15 a pop, but it took me nothing to publish it, and I've written 400 of them. If each of them only sells like 4 copies, I'm still in the black.
Yeah.
And they're of course the books are trash, and they they copy paste the same phrase 100 times in the same book, stuff like that. There's people that are a lot more hard to pin down. Like, you know, I'm sure if you talk to S-Rob, he would say like he believes his nonsense 100%.
Yeah, but S-Rob's like an extreme example. S-Rob is like literal garbage books. No one in occultism takes S-Rob seriously. But there are people that are, especially in the current AI market, are just churning out fucking garbage books that have no substance, no quality, and most of the time repackaging old ideas in just consistently worse and worse ways. 3 of them in a year, and Occult Secrets of Lilith, and then the Occult Secrets of Asmodee, and then the Occult Secrets of, you know, whoever. And it will ultimately not give you any sort of real new practices. It'll just change up the aesthetics, like, all right, you know, here's my quarters magic ritual for you. Here's like my scrying technique with it. Here's an invocation for whatever we're dealing with, and then okay, hey, we're gonna do that again, just with something else.
But then you can take that, because we're just talking about like books and stuff right now. Then there's people that will do that where it's all of that information that you could have gotten from that $20 book, or even better, like a PDF that has been passed around since the late 90s, because the book came out in the 70s. To do that, like, what if I just got information that anyone can get just about anywhere, and I teach it as a class, and I charge you $800 for it?
Yeah. Benny,
Yeah.
you were the one that we brought this up with at first, where we were talking about, like, I don't have a problem with teaching. Teaching isn't like a bad thing. You teach a class.
I do. I teach classes every month.
And you're arguably giving people stuff that they could probably find elsewhere. I think you're a little better than that, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, I teach some Chaos Magic 101 stuff, but I would say that I'm expounding upon the basic ideas with like my own input and trying to make things more approachable, more easier. I also try to empower the students and make sure they get some of the messages in their head that are typically not brought to them. You know, like the fact that like they can do this shit without having to pay people tons of money. That they don't need to have an endless subscription to, you know, paid content and books to get something done. You know, like I'd like if a lot of my classes were the last classes they took for a while. You know, I'm trying to kind of bring it to them, but I'm definitely not just saying that I've got a secret and then charging an exorbitant amount of money for access to that quote unquote secret, because that's basically 100% always a fucking con job. And it's gross, you know, so I don't do that in any way, shape, or form.
Right. And I mean, and that's exactly what we're talking about. Just to name names, like Jason Louv's magic.me stuff, right? You can go and look at, like, he doesn't hide what he's teaching you. You can look at it, and virtually everything he's teaching you is just, hey, this is like a well-known occult practice that just exists out in the wild. And you can go find an innumerable amount of information to it. The only argument I've heard that has any legitimacy in my mind is that there's a certain class of people that have the expendable income that don't want to put in the labor of having to like curate and find the sources themselves, so they can pay someone like Jason Louv however so much money
to spoon feed it all to them.
Yeah.
No, but all that's arguing is that it's okay because some people want to be suckers.
Right.
That doesn't.
Well,
and that's
are they a sucker though if they're busy? I mean, if they're busy and they just want someone to jam the information in their head as fast as possible.
How busy are you that you can't sit down and read a PDF? Like, I hate to, guys.
It's true.
We're talking about really basic stuff. We're not saying that this is someone's like lecture course breaking down like something that they're doing for their PDHD. Wow, that's more about me than anything. I ain't got no learnings. I didn't go to school. But no, but the point being that like these aren't like super academic deep dives. These aren't hard to gather information. This is like how to do a sigil. I Ching 101. This is stuff that even if you were lazy, go on YouTube. You will find there are people that are going to explain this to you in 10 minutes. If you want to be spoon-fed occultism, like this is 21st century, baby. The world is your oyster.
Yeah.
You don't need to get your like Magick subscription service so that you can get that and then your $80 meditation pillow and your $20 I'm a sucker bumper sticker.
Right, yeah.
But I would argue, though, that whereas what Luv is offering might not be something that we understand, I think if he's upfront about what it is, it doesn't qualify as a grift.
Now, and I guess that's sort of where things get a little dicey, I guess, where it's like, because if a grift has to inherently be something that is just absolute, because I always associated the term grift with, like, if someone is like a right-wing grifter is somebody who does not believe the things that they are telling you, but they are saying these things to get your money and support. So in my mind, an occult grifter would usually constitute someone who knows that they're full of shit or doesn't even believe in this stuff and is promising you like you're going to be king of the moon next week if you follow this course. That's a very rare thing at this point. There are most of the folks that I would even throw that grifty sort of label on. They believe in magic. They believe in the efficacy of occult practice. They're just kind of skeevy about it, and they're sort of taking advantage of people and giving them a product that is not of good quality or arguably is being marked up at a rate that is not conscionable. Does that make sense?
Yeah, see, I see a grift as like, I agree with you. Like, a grift has to have a level of underhandedness to it. And that underhandedness is typically used to get more attention or money than someone else doing a similar thing. An example I would give is tarot readings, right? If you pay $30 for a tarot reading and you go to the tarot reading, you kind of got exactly what you paid for. But what if somebody charges $150 because they do contacted tarot readings, where, you know, now they're using some sort of psychic ability to commune with the oracle, and like they're just repackaging it in a way that rips more money out of your pocket because they've essentially marketed it or sold it better. That's a grift to me. Like, a grift can spin the gamut from just straight up lying to just saying it and phrasing it in a way that it seems like they're getting more than they really are, right? Like, a lot of the classes out there always have this thing where there's that secret, there's this technique that you're going to learn, you know? It's like, a lot of times when you're reading a book or you're taking a class or looking at what someone's saying, it seems like they're almost acting like they kind of made it up or they're the ultimate authority, you know? So like, oh, I'm learning from Hecate's homeboy, you know? I'm like, you're not, you know? They just kind of made it up like that. If someone's like Hecate's #1 devotee, they're probably not pumping out classes about other deities every other month, you know? But yeah, I think it's that spin and that hustle that is somewhat disingenuous, as well as, you know, also kind of finding ways to do low effort things that look like they have more effort, which can really be done with like jewelry and talismans and stuff. Like, you can just get something cast in a third world country for, you know, way less than anybody else can make it for, throw it in a cool looking package and call it a talisman, and people are going to pay for it. And it was just, you know, a mundane object that the person who made it never even touched.
Yeah. On one hand, right? Because when it comes to stuff like that, like at the bare minimum, at least I can say you're getting a product, like you're getting something in your hand. Then it always turns into the argument of what did this cost to make, and how authentic do I consider whatever woo-woo juju that they threw on it, you know? Because Benny, that's the other thing that you make. Not only do we talk about, you know, you teach in classes, but you are a craftsman, and you do, honest to God, like everything but pulling the metal out of the ground with your bare hands. You've crafted talismans, and you've talked about melting down silver and, you know, engraving it and doing the ceremonies and the rituals over it for people.
Yeah.
Even if someone entirely thought that this is a grift just on the virtue of, I don't believe in magic, this is nonsense, you could at least point to, well, I still also took all the time out of my day to make this product that is now in your hand. This piece, this work of art, this work of my, what's the word, metallurgy or whatever, of whatever you've done, they have something in their hand, and now we're just arguing about was it worth the money.
Yeah, I mean, that's my primary like occult interface with like commerce is as, you know, an artificer. Like I make talismans, and like I do it the hard way because I saw how people do it and I thought that was inauthentic. So like, yeah, I mean, ultimately at the end of the day, people are paying me for my time and they get a hunk of precious metal. So, you know, like even if it's not real, they got two things.
At the bare minimum, you can at least point to like that's a much easier sell than like if I gave somebody $200 for them to channel a spirit and talk to me, because then that seems like the most easily exploitable form of grift. But this is what we're talking about, the levels and levels of discernment that's required whenever the occult and commerce start butting up to each other. And we all got to make a buck somehow. I understand it. There's tons of folks that I've interacted with that do things like where they sell tarot readings and stuff like that. And these are people that I think they're being honest. They're not trying to oversell what they're doing. They're not trying to take advantage of anybody, and they're not charging an arm and a leg for it. They're just charging what they feel is a fair rate. And I don't think that's not a bad thing. But in that same vein, there are people that see that this is something that someone will pay money for, and they get the cartoon dollar signs in their eyes, and they just figure out how they're going to exploit people. And I think on another level too, there's a lot of times magic is weaponized by these grifty conmen type to take advantage of the people who are absolutely desperate. You know?
Yeah.
Like I'm just gonna say this. I think part of what got us on this is that I saw Jason Miller. That's the other Jason for everyone who wasn't keeping track. Jason and Jason, the two brothers. But Jason Miller he republished, or there was a reprinting of whatever money magic book that he had, and he did some post where he said something to the effect of like, these are hard economic times and things are uncertain. Buy my book. And the book is also a talisman. And it's like, I'm laughing now, but that made my skin crawl. The idea of looking at the state of financial ruin that a lot of folks are heading for and being like, now's a good time for me to sell my money magic book. You are a skeevy motherfucker.
Yeah, it's gross. And I think you're kind of like nipping at the meat and potatoes of like this topic of grifting is like the straight up exploitative con man. And it's really unfortunate because, I mean, to be an efficient magician, you've got to have a little con man in you.
Oh, yeah.
Know?
We've said that on the show so many times.
Yeah. The problem is that some of these guys are really fucking good at it. And when I make talismans for people, I don't do health, wealth, or love ever. I refuse, because if it's wealth, like, don't waste your money on a talisman. If it's health, I'm not a doctor. And if it's love, figure that shit on your own, right? I also tell every person that I make a talisman for that they can do this themselves and save money, and then they can decide if they want me to do it or not. When you're looking at somebody who's charging money for wealth magic, it's always a fucking scam.
This is wealth magic for them, bro. That's
it's 100%.
I know one spell, and it's conjure dollar bill.
Yeah.
For me, that framing of like, yeah, we are in a cost of living crisis. The economy now, thanks to this lovely war, it's taking a bigger shit than it already was. And then your thought is like, well, this is a good opportunity for me to hawk my financial sorcery manual. I just don't feel like your heart is in the right place, bud.
Yep. It's the same thing as like faith healers and like, psychic surgeons and shit. Like, it's massively exploitive. I mean, there's I don't want to feed too much into it, but we talked about this together, but there's a person in Los Angeles who is essentially charging people exuberant sums of money for invisibility against ICE raids. Someone who is offering to protect people who are scared of getting deported magically. And that's just straight theft, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, no, that's gross. It's gross.
It's a grossly unethical thing on so many levels. And it's just just that pure case of like, oh, you're desperate and you're willing to try anything? Give me a bunch of money. Just give me a bunch of money and it'll be fine. And that's horrible. Like, all right, that guy, like, I hope he trips in the street under a bus. That's like the world will be better off with him not doing things like that, and not in the position to do things like that.
Yeah, but and here's sort of my thing too, right? Because this takes it back a little bit, back to your Jason Louv types and stuff. So often these courses for magic are presented in that sort of way of like, oh yes, I'm going to unlock your magical power. I'm going to, I'm going to show you, I will make you a magician. And that part of it, again, not on the same level as, I'm going to use my spirits to heal you of your leukemia. Like, it's not as gross as taking advantage of someone that's in a desperate situation that way. It's not even quite on the same level as, hey, these are hard economic times, better do some money magic about it. I got a book on that.
Hold on. For the record, the book is also a talisman.
Yeah, you're getting a talisman with it.
It's a physical object, right? You were talking about that earlier.
I hate when you use my arguments against me.
Yeah,
it feels like what you would say like in a craft fair when like the person looked disappointed with the purchase and they weren't going to buy it, and then that was like, that's also a talisman, right? Like you're making shit up.
No, you don't understand. You see this book? I know it's a magic book, but also it will absolutely destroy a family of cockroaches.
Yeah, you'll fuck them up. It gets rid of cysts in your wrist.
It does feel a little disingenuous to tell somebody that like, hey, I'm gonna teach you magic. Like that's we are not people that are here to really teach you how to do magic. At best, we're here to maybe inspire you to go do it. We'll talk about some stuff, but like I am under no illusion that even if that was my prerogative, that I can just make someone a magician or I can turn them into a magician. I can give you stuff that you can try. I don't know how effective any of it's going to be with you. I've been around enough spooky people in my life to know that people get results out of things that didn't work for me at all. People have practices that don't vibe with me at all and therefore don't really work. That's fine. That's cool. But that's all the more reason why I can't just tell you that, hey, this is how you do magic. Like I said, it's not quite on the same level as, taking advantage of people's desperation, but there's a sort of disingenuous feeling I get out of this sense. And admittedly, part of it is because obviously you're not going to tell somebody that, hey, I'm going to teach you how to do magic and maybe it'll work. I get it. You can't say that. At the same time, there's an ethical area that rubs me the wrong way, that you can tell people that magic is going to make their life better. And it's going to like fix any of their problems or, or you're going to be good at it.
Yeah. I mean, guaranteed results is a red flag always.
Yeah. Yeah.
When I make talismans with people, like I always do a call with them, and like I'm always pretty explicit about, I'm making this for you. There's things I'm gonna do, but you have to do stuff too, and you have to like work towards the goal. And there's mundane efforts that have to occur, or else you're just buying, a piece of silver. Like there's participation on both ends. Nobody can just do stuff for you. It's like, if someone does divination for you, some people tell you this is what's what, and then some people kind of talk with you and involve you in the process and like ask questions and you figure stuff out together. And I feel like the latter is typically the more enlightening situation, because they've involved you and you've become part of it and you're discussing it,
Oh yeah.
Guaranteed results is a huge red flag in my opinion.
Just to be a little more charitable to him, because I feel like I'm probably saying more than I should, but I get it. While I would never like guarantee that anyone's gonna have a better life through magic, I do think so. I think, the three of us would all agree that you should probably go do some magic. In fact, stop listening to the podcast right now. Just pause it for like 5 minutes, go do some magic, do something good for yourself. Get yourself a hat, maybe. You do want to give people the message that's empowering, which is, again, sort of you notice that's also part of the line of the higher end of this, is that nothing that the most exploitative and the worst elements that we're talking about are doing anything that's really empowering to anybody. It's not, it might be trying to give you the thing of like, oh yeah,
give me some money, I can do this for you.
Right,
I can
exactly.
make you, or in the same way that like in a way cult leaders operate, where it's like you're awful, you're miserable, you're sad, you're not, or the manosphere type people, where it's like you're a piece of shit, you're a pasty whatever piece of garbage, and you ain't nothing. But if you just do exactly what I tell you to, and you give me some money and you do this, I can make you into something that you want to be. I can make you something good, rather than saying like, listen, here's what I've done. This is how I've improved myself, or this is how I've bettered myself. And I can show you that. And maybe if you stick with it, it'll do the same for you. Those are very different approaches and different atmospheres that are cultivated by that.
Yeah, 100%.
One is focused on, maybe I can show you how to be better, or if you just turn yourself over to whatever I tell you to do, you will be great. It's just, one is a little dishonest and preying on your insecurities, and another one is hopefully, if done right, empowering and showing you like, you don't need me for this. I can just sort of show you the way. And that's a lot of what some of the best spiritual teachers, even maybe just some of the most well-known spiritual teachers, Ram Dass has that quote, we're all just walking each other home.
It kind of opens the door to like the other kind of occult grift, which is not necessarily a monetary grift, but like the power grift, which is a real thing that's kind of pervasive in the occult system. Is like, I've noticed a lot of folks kind of start that personality cult around themselves, and it's almost disempowering people and kind of funneling their energies and attention up to the top. And there's a lot of those. And there's some now that are kind of feeding off of early chaos magic practitioners and people that are more in tune to a postmodern vibe. And it's kind of bringing them into a group where they've, in my opinion, lost a lot of autonomy, and they're kind of getting scammed belief-wise, not necessarily out of their wallets, but out of their brains and hearts. That's kind of spooky.
You want to name some names? Because I can think of a couple.
Yeah, I mean, I can think of one that's a really creative one. It's Magia instead of Magick.
Oh, yeah, yes.
Yeah, that's one. I like a lot of the stuff that Chapman has said in the past, but I don't know. It feels off to me. Everything about groups like that feel off to me. I've talked to people, I know people that are into it, and I don't know, they sound a lot like Scientology. I mean, like, do you know how you find out if someone is into Magia?
How?
Don't worry, they'll fucking tell you all about it. Like, nonstop. Like, you get that repetitive groupthink going on, and
Alan says this.
Yeah. He's not scamming people for cash, but his magical prowess is likely sky high right now, because it's just follower, and it's an interesting thing because people are always kind of looking for answers. So there's now this thing where you can kind of be the non-traditional leader. It's like the cool youth pastor. Like, I ride skateboard too. Like, but Metallica's good. That shit. Like, it's now being targeted towards I think people who had a more independent way of thought, and they're kind of being roped back into it.
Hey, that whole plurality and arbitrariness of being thing ain't working out for you. Don't you really just want like some of that old time religion with a new coat of paint?
Yeah.
Well, I've got you. I'm right here.
I had this conversation with Benny earlier about the issue of deeper meaning and metaphysical truth in occultism, or more specifically, let's say in magic. And you notice that is sort of the pipeline for a lot of these folks, right? They start out with let me teach you how to do magic. And then they start giving you like, hey, this is how I think the world works type shit too. Like, I mean, that is explicitly what happened with Chapman, right? He went from, the advanced magic for beginners type guy to, the Baptist head. And I'm not knocking the Baptist head stuff. I thought a lot of that was really cool, but it's certainly become a lot more of a, well, I mean, the jokes write themselves, right? Alan Chapman, he's AC. He came up with something where he took the word magic and he changed it slightly. And he's got a group of followers. I mean, and he edited the Magic Without Tears book. Come on, like.
Wait. AC a competent magician, lots of awesome techniques, and then a pivot to being like a bringer of a new religion that's also steeped in that esoteric. Oh, wait! You're saying he's Mathers? He's like the new Mathers?
Yeah. That's exactly.
Swing and a miss.
You should have said L. Ron Hubbard, but
Oh,
Ain't nobody like Elron. I'll tell you that right now.
that man's one of a kind.
Yeah, he's the most successful American magician of all time is L. Ron Hubbard.
If your metric of successful is like
Dollars.
yes.
dollar bill, yeah, he
Dollar
won. Never mind. We're never pack it up, guys. We're never gonna beat Elron if dollars is the point system.
It's dollars, bro. That's all I'm talking about. Yeah, I mean, and you get like, so like, I'm a big fan of like being very cautious of double speak, right? Because double speak is like the bread and butter of con artists, and double speak is encoded language that says one thing and you kind of buy it, but it really means another. So like, one of the things you notice with these newer, guru guys is like, this isn't a cult. It's not a religion, and that's them saying like, this is a cult. This is a religion, like it's a mega double speak. And, it's like you get these daily practices and all these things, but it's all leading up to secrets. And one of the things I will say about Magia is I know people in the organization and I'll ask a question and they'll say, well, I'm not doing
Oh God, that's so.
And fuck me.
Once I reach level 5, man, it's over for y'all.
Yeah, then everybody's getting fucked up. Like, it's crazy to me. What they're grifting is power and energy and attention. Those things are more valuable than dollars in a lot of aspects.
Oh, and money. I'm sure money's coming in there at he's making a living off of it.
Well, I mean, maybe not. I don't know.
The money's coming from somewhere.
It is an important distinction too, because say what you want about Jason Miller. Again, at least you're getting a book.
Yeah.
Say what you want about Jason Louv. You get some video courses. And hey, the onus is on you in a certain aspect. You got the money magic book. At least you can try to make it work. If you get the lessons from Jason Louv, you can learn something. Oh, and then if you drop the ball on it, that was your fault. You spend the money that you didn't put in the attention. But taking the sort of spiritual, magical well-being of people and making them follow some sort of amorphous thing that ultimately leads back to you, that's it's pretty sketch. It's pretty sketch.
It has an element that is really spooky to me, which is sponsor-sponsee relationships.
Oh, like AA.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So why that scares me? So like, I don't think Chapman's starting a death cult. I don't think he's gonna hurt anybody. I don't even think he's a bad person. I don't know how much he thinks or knows he's grifting, but like, that scares me. Because if you join an organization where you may begin to have doubts or trouble comprehending something, and it is part of the onus of your membership to then discuss that with someone higher up, that's Scientology. That is my opportunity to talk you back into it or talk you off the ledge. And that shit scares me.
Yeah, I mean, we made the AA joke, but literally it's the, Crowley AA as well. That's the sort of the system they have set up. You report to a superior in the order, as it were. And, it's an interesting thought to think of magic as we all understand it in the contemporary moment, right? Where the idea that anyone's going to be able to look at your magic and be able to effectively say like, oh yes, like this is definitely what you're doing wrong here, seems really kind of dubious. And it can only serve to just create dogmatism, right? Like there's no way everyone in that order is going back to the person who started it, right? So they're all going to think the same and learn the same and do the same things. And I mean, hey, that's literally how every fucking initiatory order or any thing, that's how fucking the plumbers union works, for God's sakes. But there's just a level of difference here when it's something that people end up tying so much meaning into, right? That's why Scientology is such a problem, because it's not like it's just a club teaching you how to do stuff. It's an entire belief system that people shape their lives around, and oftentimes that results in them giving large sums of money and being exploited in various ways, And
For
again,
sure, 'cause
not saying that Chapman's doing it, but it's the same sort of environment.
The potential exists. You know what I mean? Like, it's set up. Like, just because the chessboard has pieces on it doesn't mean we have to play, but I mean, we could play chess. You know what I mean? Like, it's an option now. And like, I don't think there's anything wrong with groups or covens or getting together with people to do stuff. But, you know, I think the listeners should be very wary when there's things like assimilation and monitoring of thought, because those never lead to great things.
We harp on discernment quite a bit here. And it's very hard because I can't explain to you how you should have discernment beyond like very, very broad strokes.
Yeah.
But it is something that you do need to sit there and question what you're being told, who's telling it, what intentions they might have, and ultimately what they're asking you to do. And if anybody wants you to give them some money for something that seems dubious, if somebody wants you to try on this jumpsuit and these nice sneakers, you know, there's things that there's red flags that you should be looking for. And we've shown time and time again when they've done these studies that being intelligent is not a defense from being taken advantage of, particularly in like cult-like environments, but grift in general. You will think you might be a really smart person. You probably are a very smart person, and you can still be made a victim for groups with bad intentions or people with bad intentions. So that's always something to be wary of.
I go over that in my classes always kind of from the start, and I always kind of give people a primer on like kind of navigating the occult world, especially the IRL occult world. The first one is assume everybody's a con artist until they prove they aren't. That doesn't mean just the person you're like casually talking to or whatever, but if it's somebody who has something to sell or has something to promote, consider them a con artist until they've proven you otherwise. There's certain things you can look out for that should be giant red flags right away. Any talks about sexuality and sex, drugs, alcohol, getting you to some sort of enclosed location, pay attention. Those are topics that typically come up really easily unless somebody's got something kind of weird going on. Ideas of secrets, things that have been transmitted to the person. Those are all things you should be listening for, because like those are where the problems come from, right? Like no spooky cult ends in something good. I've heard way too many testimonies and people talking about abuses and power dynamics and just like terrible shit in general. So like, I think it's okay to start off looking at something
skeptically,
choosing to be skeptical.
Yeah.
Like choose it, like use it like a tool, because you got to look at people like, and if you get one weird vibe, you should go. Trust your gut. Always. If something feels too good to be true, or if it feels like it's just a little weird, or if someone's too pushy, and people get real pushy, like you need to backpedal and get the fuck out of there, because there is no shortage of weirdos in the occult store. You know?
Oh yeah,
like,
not at all.
Like we're overstocked on fucking weirdos.
We got all shapes and sizes. We got the diddlers. We got the we'll murder you in an alley. We got the we'll take your grandma's fucking retirement fund. You know, yeah, we had all of those types in here. There's no shortage of the ways you can be taken advantage of by spooky weirdos.
Yeah, and you can kind of bring that idea into your general occult shopping. Like if you're in an occult store and you see a cool looking candle holder, you can ask them, hey, where was this made? Who made this? And if they're like, maybe it's not a cool special object, you know, or unless you think it is, you know, like there's ways to kind of probe into stuff, but I feel like in the occult world, there's this onus to kind of be super respectful of people's opinions. And I agree with that, but like, that does not mean you can't pay attention. It doesn't mean that you can't look at somebody when somebody's giving you their, their spiel. You don't have to take it as a fact right away. You can take it as a fact later, but you can watch out. You know, there's people that are looking to exploit, and it's interesting, and there's ways to navigate it. So it's important to do.
I really like that you phrased it that sort of way, because what we do have a lot of in the occult is an open-mindedness about this sort of stuff, especially in like, you know, the chaos magic and like the postmodern magic and the modern eclectic sort of approaches that we have, the stuff that most of us are doing at this point. You know, let's face it, every year there's less and less hardline ceremonial magicians. There's less and less traditional witchcraft people. Like, it's just how it works. We're all kind of trending towards these same very open sort of areas of practice, and there's good and bad about that. But what we do have is a sort of mandate to be open-minded and respectful of people's practices and ideas and stuff. But when that goes into the realm of confidence games, essentially, when it goes in the realm of like people trying to sell you stuff or trying to get you to join up in something, it becomes a problem, because there's this level where you're supposed to not just assume that people are full of shit when they talk about their magical work and their experiences and stuff with it. But once someone's trying to get you to buy into something, you kind of have to turn that off. Just compartmentalize it a little bit and decide that, like, look, they might be on to something, but you still need to just look at them like, well, where's the grift coming in then? Maybe they do earnestly believe this shit. The Heaven's Gate people earnestly believe their shit. But you got to see what you got to try to look at what that real end game of this could possibly be.
Yeah, I mean, you can paradigm shift into that person and be like, how would they exploit this? And if you can figure it out, they probably are.
Yeah, right.
Like it's pretty clean.
A lot of it comes down to just being able to parse out what someone's motivation is for telling you this. Now, our Discord is full of people sharing weird and kooky experiences and ideas that they have. None of us are proselytizing. Most of us are just sharing stuff because we like to talk about what we're doing, Yep. But the minute that somebody is trying to tell you something with the motivation of, I'm telling you this because I want you to believe it, I want you to agree with me, that's your sign that they want something of you. And it can start with very simple ideas of, this person wants to just feel validated, and it can end with, what did I say, the tracksuit and the sneakers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you guys want something to drink? I got some Kool-Aid over here. You guys?
It was flavored. Once people get their teeth into people, it's really difficult, like, because you get groupthink going on. I don't know. There's a lot of cards. That's all I'm saying.
It's a hard one. Anybody got any other thoughts about grifting before we move on?
No, I would also encourage people that, like, like we made jokes about tarot readings, but if tarot readings are important to you and you need someone to do it for you, you shouldn't feel bad about it.
What, $20-$30 for a tarot reading? Yeah, what's the big deal? If somebody wants $100 or some dollars for like an hour of their time, you walk away.
Yeah. And I would also say that anybody could come to CMN Discord and probably get one for free from a very competent person, like
for free. Yeah. That's the other thing.
There's nothing you need to pay for in Magic ever. Not my stuff, not the stuff at the store. I mean, you have to pay for the Patreon or else you get bad luck, but
or you're cursed for 1,000.
There's nothing you need to pay for.
Magic shouldn't cost you any money. It shouldn't have to. If you feel like you need something, or if you think something would be nice, that's a whole different ball game. Or even on the level of I'm buying, Zen Rinpoche talked about this when like people would get a Yidam and they would buy like the smallest statue that they had of it. Sometimes a way of showing that something is important to you is spending a little extra flash on it. But that's not a have to. That should be a decision you make because this is important to me and I want to make sure that I'm doing right by my own personal practices and stuff. It should never cost you any money.
Well, yeah, I mean, the onus of it should be that you truly believe that you need this and want to do this. It should never be that somebody has convinced you that you're not going to be able to do this shit unless you buy into X, whether it's an idea or a product.
For sure.
All of that said, I'd like to remind you guys that the beginning of the year, I got a little 3-legged gold bullfrog that is supposed to be bringing me wealth and prosperity. I was told that this thing would bring me a lot of money, so I got it. I'm lighting candles in front of it. I'm going to dub him Grift Frog, and he's going to be the exciting new character that we check in at CMN through the year to see how much prosperity he's bringing me.
Has Grift Frog brought you anything so far?
Hold on, let me count. 1, 2. Okay, well, they don't make pennies anymore, so they're probably going up in value, right?
All right.
Yeah, and I would like to remind the readers that the most accessible form of wealth magic is tax fraud. So if you can pull that off,
there you go.
Money does magically appear. It's fucking great. It really works.
now it's time for everyone's favorite part of the show. It's where we roll up our sleeves, we take a deep breath, we invoke journalistic excellence, and we ask, what's in the news?
What is in the news indeed?
Nothing's going on. I don't think we're good.
Nothing. Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. It's
Slow
all
news day.
good. Yeah.
You need to go back to bed, everybody.
There's a lost dog in my neighborhood. I didn't want to bring it up, but it's pretty fucked
Oh, I
up.
hope they
mean,
find him.
yeah, it happens. It happens.
Okay, well,
I hope
we'll
we don't
start.
have any more bad news.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know how
that's
much bad. That's it. Oh
Okay.
God, the chrome-plated balls. We were just like, yeah, nothing, everything's cool. That's the segment. All done, guys. Cue the music. As you are all well aware at this point, the combined efforts of the U.S. and Israel have unleashed a massive ongoing military operation, not a war because that requires a declaration from Congress, but an ongoing military operation on Iran. Iran has responded with a massive counteroffensive spanning the region. The Strait of Hormuz as a death grip. It's completely locked down with very few exceptions. Put a stranglehold on what is a major route of transport, crude oil production across the entire Middle East. Like Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Qatar, you name it, has been damaged to the extent that there is going to be massive shortages. Production is now going to slow to a crawl along with the transport of it. So gas prices and crude oil are soaring. There's been massive damage to the infrastructure of the U.S. across all of the military bases that we have spread out through the area. The things, stuff like radar tech, and actually a base in Turkey that actually was part of the staging process for our nuclear armaments in the area was attacked.
Yeah, for
I believe
NATO
the missile-
technically, but yeah.
I believe at the time those missiles were intercepted, but it seems to be that Iran, which has been preparing for decades for this conflict, is well prepared. It seems to be a war of attrition that is going on, not just between the U.S., but Israel is beginning to take quite a beating as the Iron Dome defenses are being worn down. It's a bloody sight, and that's not to even mention all of the damage that has been done to Iran. I believe the first day the Ayatollah was killed, right? And then they had a meeting and then blew that up. So
Yeah.
we're in line. We're like the sixth guy in the line now.
It's a bad scene. Overall, lots of life of the people of Iran has been taken, and then of course people in Israel have now died as well, and people in all of the surrounding Gulf areas. The president of Iran yesterday actually apologized for the attacks on the other Arab Gulf nations and said that Tehran would stop striking its neighbors unless any attacks on Iran originated from those countries. So,
and a lot of the countries are now locking down their airspace for not just that reason, but there was the refusal to comply and allow attacks to be from America or Israel to be staged in their airspace. So Spain also is outright refusing to assist the U.S. in any of their attacks. This is an incredibly unpopular move, not just with the American people, not just with the rest of the world, just everybody. Who wanted this other than
Israel
and the bloodthirsty warmongers that are in the administration? Who wanted this? And I I've been saying it to my coworkers. I've been saying it to people that I've struck up conversations with in the street. I've been saying it to people who have left their windows open while I'm on my nightly walks. The reality of war is horrific, and we should all thank grab the list of every pantheon you have and say thank you, thank you, thank you. If you are in a country where you are not having to pick your neighbor's guts off of the ground, if you are not looking at your city block, your apartment complex, your schools and hospitals being reduced to rubble by death from above, thank your lucky fucking stars. We are so absolutely numbed to the horrors that are going on right now. It's not even funny. There's not a joke to make. There's not a brave face to put on it all. War is hell. War is horrific. War is disgusting. If you don't have it visiting your house right now, get on your fucking knees and say thank you.
It's very bleak. We've already been, I mean, well, this might sound like an understatement, but we're at a tumultuous time in this country, but it seems like I
had noticed.
Yeah. It seems like every day there's something worse and worse, but I did not have, I mean, and we knew it was coming as the problem. And even when it happened, it still felt just like an absolute shock in a lot of ways that like, we're really doing this. We're really about to just obliterate another country and expect them to just, go away. Like we're going to just bust in like it's Call of Duty and just fucking shoot the boss and then we win.
No, but they're like they're a bad guy government. They do stuff like they kill protesters and they oppress their citizens. And
that's wild.
That's wild.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah. It's really probably a good thing that they got taken out, right? Because they're like the bad guys.
Yeah. Like who else does that though?
Yeah.
I heard they
no
were
one would
talking
you
about
imagine.
suspending elections and stuff. They were talking about that.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, right. It's wild. And
Good
then,
thing
like,
we
imagine if a good thing we don't live in a country like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I thought the Iron Sheik and Hulk Hogan solved all this, but I guess not.
There's the joke. Thank God we had a laugh somewhere.
Yeah, it's fucking miserable, man. My girls were asking me about it, and I tried to explain to them, like all this geopolitical shit is whatever, but there's little girls in Iran right now that are having a 9/11 happen every half hour. It's intense stuff, and it's brutal, and it's bloody, and it's inhuman. I think a lot of people do the thing where it's like, oh, they're just trying to cover up the Epstein files, or they're trying to do this or that. It's just like, I don't know. I don't really care why it's happening. I just want it to not happen. Like, it's bad.
No one needs to be rationalizing the political maneuvers in this situation. Who fucking cares at this point? It's the same thing about what's happening in Gaza still, and it was the same opinion we had then. It's like, you don't have to worry about the rationalization of why this is happening, because there is no rational excuse to just
there's no
blow
justification
up
for
children.
this.
Yeah.
There's no justification for this. It's just the works of disgusting, psychotic men who want power, who want to control things, who want more and more and more, because greed only wants one thing, and that's more. And there's nothing to be said. I don't have any figures I can pull, but just talking to people that having conversations with people that I know that politically we are at complete opposite ends of the spectrum, and hearing them go, yeah, I can't believe it either. This is so stupid. This is so insane. It's realizing this has got to be one of the most unpopular maneuvers in the history of America. And not only is it causing untold damage and human suffering, not only has it killed American citizens, not only has it killed tons of people, citizens of other countries, not only has it made orphans and widows and childless parents of so many people, it's also plunging the global economy, specifically, it's at domestically our economy into the fucking it's thrown us into the shitter. It's going to get a lot worse, and quite possibly the damage to our infrastructure and as far as this area, and the fact that we've just destabilized the region yet again. It's possibly going to cause more damage to the foothold that America had in the Middle East to begin with. It might be an absolute loss in every possible direction, because there's not going to be a regime change, guys. Definitely not. If all we're doing is shooting missiles at each other, there's definitely not going to be a regime change. And I think I've said this already, if we put boots on the ground, we haven't yet. It looks like it's going that way. If we put boots on the ground, this will be our Ukraine. It will probably be worse than Ukraine. It will become this quagmire, this absolute muck pit that is going to suck up American blood, time, and money and render us incapable of managing anything else. And you're going to watch. It's like Russia's losing their foothold as a global superpower, partly because of Ukraine. This is going to be one of our coffin nails. You're going to watch that. This is just like China is just sitting here with popcorn going, "Oh man, I can't wait." Tire yourselves out, everyone. I'll be here.
It's not even popular. It's a very small contingent
No one is
of people
happy that
in
we're
the
doing
regime
this.
that were like, yeah, that's great. This is a great idea. And it's not even all of them. The military brass, as far as I'm made to understand, thought that this was going to be a horrible fucking idea and it was going to do everything that just happened. Nothing fucking good.
The word amongst them right now is that we'll be out of there by September.
Yeah.
September.
But I mean, we usually withdraw from conflict areas when we say we're going to, so that's really good.
Well, I would say that, like, when we're saying that this is going to take like a week, and then they're saying behind closed doors September, maybe September, maybe we'll be out by September.
No, go away.
Oh boy. So far, I think that our best option would be like to say psych and just like everyone go home. Jesus.
Yeah.
This is gross and disgusting, and I don't want to make light of it because it really is just it's terrible. If you're somebody that supports this and thinks this is super great, fuck off. Turn this show off. Go stick your head in an oven. Fuck you. If you think that this is a good thing, get away from me.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Iran's not fucking great, but
not at all.
How you handle it? Like
the idea that this is going to make the situation better in any shape or form is laughably naive. And I would also like to point out that the last time we tried to topple the government in Iran and make a regime change, you know what we got?
What?
The Ayatollah.
Ah, darn.
Now we're going to have the double Ayatollah.
Mecca Ayatollah. Yeah.
It's like, yeah, mega.
It's just a really fractious area to start moving things.
Well, and then the other problem too is that if this goes really, really bad, Israel has nukes. So if Israel starts getting hammered that bad, I mean, I really just don't want to wake up to have to hear reports of like nukes being dropped in my lifetime, and it's just I don't want that to ever happen. And I don't think nuclear arms should exist. I really don't want to have to do it because we were morons and decided that we were going to carpet bomb everybody and everything, thinking that they were just going to roll over like Venezuela.
Yeah.
I mean, and I guess do you want to move on from it at this point? Do we have anything else we really have to say about this? Because I think that's, ending it in the nuclear option is pretty much what we're going to have to do.
I can make it worse. Let's make it hurt more. All right. Tangentially related. Have you guys heard the reports and the complaints coming from the army that
Oh, yes, yeah.
that officers have been giving speeches about how this is a holy war and a mission from God to bring Jesus back, and that this is going to usher in Armageddon and cause the second coming?
Yeah, I did hear that.
Controversial
That's
take.
real?
It's real.
Controversial opinion, guys. I think that if you go into a military operation saying that you're trying to bring about the apocalypse, you should be in prison. Like, you should be decommissioned. They should put you in a box, and they should keep you away from anything that can cause physical harm to another human. If your
that's
goal
pretty
is that if you want to cause the end of the world, you should not. Like, you should not be able to do anything.
Yeah, like when the Jehovah's Witnesses come to my house, to tell me about the word, like, their point is that when everybody hears about it, the world ends. But like, they just give me a magazine, so I'm not really mad about it. But if you've got some guy that's in charge of other human beings with guns saying that, we're pretty fucked.
Yeah,
So-
we're fucking boned.
That's not good.
Yeah, it's absolute death
It's
cult shit.
only that I genuinely in my heart believe that most of these people are full of shit, that I'm not more scared. I think that's the type of shit that you say when you're like a demonic entity on the inside, and that you're like, if you just have like black tar and ooze inside of you instead of blood, you don't really believe in this thing. You're saying this because you think that your soldiers are gullible pricks, and they're going to be like, yeah, let's do it for Jesus. That's what it is. I think that these people that are saying this shit don't really believe it. God, man, I really hope they don't believe it.
I mean, whether they do or they don't, I think it's fucking. They're ugh.
But I think if I genuinely think if you enter anything, if you go into the war room, if you start talking to your troops and you say anything about how this is for the apocalypse, baby, right to jail. Right to jail. Lock you up.
Military and eschatology don't mix. Like, that they should be separated. Straight to jail. Straight to fucking
Straight to the box.
Why couldn't have been the Buddhist end of the world where the Buddha just comes back?
Listen, you guys don't understand, but if we go to a war, then someone might have to come and turn the wheel of the Dharma again, because like that's war's pretty whack, yo. Here's what I'm gonna do. All right, we've gotten really dark. Let's do something to brighten your spirits a little bit. All right. Does anybody remember an episode from over a year ago at this point, probably one of our older ones, where a woman on TikTok was doing tarot readings?
Wait, what? This one?
To accuse a professor at a college, a woman named Rebecca Schofield, accusing her of being involved with a murder of several students at Moscow College.
Yes, I remember this.
Where she used her tarot card readings, and she was on TikTok, and she spun this wild narrative that she was in a romantic relationship with one of the victims and then with the murderer, and she was actually the master manipulator behind all of this. And Professor Schofield said, that's really fucked up. I'm suing you.
Yeah.
A jury in Boise awarded $10 million in damages Friday to the University of Idaho professor.
10 million?
10 million. The
That's a
defendant.
lot of tarot readings.
Yeah. Ashley Gillard, for everyone who remembers, she, like I said, she spun this wild narrative. She was accusing police of covering things up. She was saying all these things of like, it doesn't matter what the evidence is because I've got my tarot readings. I get my knowledge from the source, and that she wasn't wrong, and that she was going to fight this tooth and nail. And Gillard, she's been found liable for damages, and she doesn't have 10 million, so it's like I don't know where that money's gonna come from.
Again, a lot of tarot readings. That's what you
start
better
flipping
doing a
them
special.
cards, girl. But I wish, the other thing, it's like with situations like this, you'd almost want to tack on like and you gotta say you don't know what you're doing. You gotta say you're a bad tarot reader. Your rep as a tarot reader is pretty tanked at that point, isn't it? Where you're like, well, I did get sued for $10 million. It's like, hey, you didn't see that coming? Your cards didn't.
Yeah, tarot didn't tell you that.
The tarot didn't tell you that you were gonna.
Yeah, that's rough.
Boy.
Sucks to suck.
It's always funny when psychics get surprised. I had like somebody that held like a psychic circle like classes, and I was just like at a shop when like no one showed up for it, and they were like, "Fuck, this sucks. Nobody showed up." And I was like, "You thought you would have known, right?" And then the person did not find that funny.
Oh man,
No humor, no laughs.
Okay. I do want to. I want to say a couple more things about it, just to add to the salt in the wound here. 4-day trial. So that's
pretty quick.
That's
pretty quick.
Well,
for
that's
a lawsuit.
the thing that makes me sad about situations like this, because this woman got smeared as like a monster by this tarot reading. And now, granted, I would like to think that most of us would have just laughed this nutter butter off, but she's saying that she had some serious anxiety and mental illness symptoms because of this false accusation. Like, I think most of us would, if I'm honest. Being accused of something so absolutely heinous. It really sucks that it takes, this is over a year. That's really one of our earlier episodes, I think.
Yeah, I think that's...
It took this long to finally get a resolution on it. But 4 days, and then the jurors deliberated for just under 2 hours. So they were like, no, I don't believe her. She's a bad look. All right. It's like 12 angry men. One of them just shows like, I've got my own tarot deck. And I drew the 10 of wands. 10 wands, 10 million.
When they announced the verdict, they should have just held up a tower card.
Have you reached, as the jury reached it? We have, Your Honor.
Yeah, tower card.
Tower card.
The lady's like, well, you can interpret that differently. Yeah.
No, it was the death card, and they're like, well, we can't, this is a lawsuit, we can't do capital punishment. They're like, oh, hang on.
And they're like, hold on, what about the alternate? And he just throws the I Ching. 23rd hexagram. Sorry.
Like, I'm all about some lady with tarot cards whipping up some crazy conspiracy. That's really entertaining. But then when they get sued and lose $10 million, that's pretty grounding. Like, that's crazy.
It's not so much. Look. It's not so much the tarot card reading. It's the fact that I think very firmly, if she had been like, yo, I did these tarot reading, I was way off the mark. I don't know what I was thinking. I feel bad that I did this. I think she would not have gotten sued. But instead, when they found the murderer, when they got the killer, when they did all the investigation, and Mrs. Schofield had nothing to do with any of it, because I want to reiterate, the only reason she was accusing Schofield is because she got on like the staff webpage and did like a reading and was like, it's her, she did it.
This is why you gotta cleanse your deck, everybody. Got to.
If she hadn't dug her heels in and said that the police were in on it and everything else, maybe this would have. So this was really just the case of she kept doubling down and doubling down and doubling down. And when she got sued, she was like, I wish they had printed this on a tissue paper so I could wipe my ass with it. And she was really thinking that she was something. It's just a case of someone where Norman Vincent Peale, right? The power of positive thinking and all that stuff. There's something that unbridled confidence can do for you, but when you hit a wall with that, man, you hit a wall.
Yeah, it's really important. Like, I'm sure we've all done divination deep dives. It's important to have friends when you're doing that, so someone can tell you like, hey, you're fucking nuts right now.
Oh yeah.
Because if not, this shit can happen. Like, it's important, when you're like, I figured it out. They're like, no, you didn't. Like, you just got to sleep. You need to go to bed.
Yeah. Listen, my brother, you need to drink some water and go to bed.
Yeah, just sleepy time for you. You've gone nuts. That's important.
What if instead of exposing the conspiracy, what if you took a shower and went to bed?
Yeah.
Got you some tea, but I mean, that's a good magical lesson to give to the listeners right there. We were talking about discernment earlier. We talk about discernment a lot on this show. Being able to recognize when you're in too deep on something And again, having good people around you that you can say some stuff to, and they're not going to judge you too hard or make you feel bad about it, but they're going to be like, no, that's really fucking crazy right now. Let's see how you feel about it after you get some rest, or maybe even just stay away from the magic for a little while. Like, that's a real thing.
Yeah.
People do get into bad states with this sometimes, even people that are, good at it.
I was in the CMN Discord and you guys were talking about your Ramadan feast. So I was like, fuck it, I'll only eat 800 calories every day for March. And like 20 people told me I was going to die. So I didn't do it. That was helpful.
See, that's
That
good.
was really helpful.
Not dying is incredibly helpful.
Yeah.
What's her freaking name? Ferguson?
Huh? Who?
No, what's the lady got sued? What was her last name? I don't know where I got Ferguson.
You just threw a name.
I was real confident.
Ashley Gillard.
Turd Ferguson.
Yeah.
Turd Ferguson. It's funny. Gillard.
I don't know how much. I mean, clearly she believes her own shit. Like, she was confident she was probably going to win this too, I bet. Yeah, so she might be a lost cause, but other people that aren't as wrapped up in that sort of thing, you can still get into these states where, especially when you're doing like mysticism and stuff like that. But divination is like a real good example, because divination gives you very practical applications of what to do with that sort of knowledge. Everyone's had I had this big divine sort of experience. It was really weird and I don't know what it fucking means. You should like go play some Nintendo Switch for a while, get your brain off it, something. Go put on a Roblox video. When you get divination, you get into the point you're like, oh God, I know where Jimmy Hoffa's buried. You're like, I don't think the cards are telling you that. I just don't think so. I mean, I know you think that the coordinates are 7, 3, and I guess whatever number the devil card is supposed to be right here. It's got some stains on it. I can't even see the numbers anymore. But you know what I mean? Like, you people do get too deep into this sort of shit, and you need to be able to back off, if for no other reason, so you don't get sued for like $10 million.
It was rough. Do you think after she lost the case, she did what every tarot person does and just bought a different deck? She's like, there's next She went shopping.
She's like, that's no more rider weight.
Yeah,
Tired of this.
I need that soft deck.
Yeah, let me get that.
I need the David Bowie Starman deck. That's the one that's gonna fix everything.
How funny would it be if we found out that like she got this whole grand conspiracy out of like the cute cat tarot or something? Like somebody totally...
She had the evil tarot deck that only tells you awful things.
Oh man. $1 million idea, liar tarot. It's tarot, but it lies to you. Okay.
That was my joke. I got they tried to recruit me for like an occult fair. I told them I wanted to do tarot readings, but it was explicitly assigned as tell me what you want to hear. And I'll just do that. You know?
Watch me spin the death, the 10 of swords, and the tower into he's definitely coming back, baby.
He's coming back.
He loves you.
That's the death of his apprehensions.
That tower, that's his burning desire for you.
Would you like to add a fourth card to the reading for only $7.99? Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Oh boy. Man, you should sell Gillard that idea. She's got a lot of money to pay back.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Okay. Moving on. All right, back to the sad. We'll do a couple more of the surrounding American politics headlines. Brian McGinnis, right, ex-Marine, Green Party candidate, had his arm broken during an intrusion into a Senate hearing and a scuffle with Capitol Police.
He broke his arm.
Yeah, well, and it was broken by not by the police, but by Senator Tim Sheehy, Republican member.
Oh,
Montana. Yeah.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah. Well, and of course, this was for a case of being very against the current ongoing military conflict. It's not a war because Congress can only declare war. I want to bring this up more because it's always been like, oh, ex-Marine, not Green Party candidate. You know, it's interesting the way they frame this. They don't name him or anything. Most of the time it's just ex-Marine. Now, it's worth noting that it's like, yeah, ex-Marine as in like a guy who put his, you know, who the way that most people will frame it, at least, is like, this is someone who served his country and he's saying, hey, this war is messed up, so maybe you should listen to him. But no, they don't care. They'll break your arm, they'll rough you up, you know. They don't give a shit that you served your country. They don't care about that. They want you to shut up and stay away from them. So I've heard rumors that he's being denied legal representation right now, but also the fact that this man is is someone who is seeking political office, and the media doesn't want to acknowledge that because he might get some attention for it. Do you know what I mean? We have to constantly restate that you only have Coke or Pepsi. Like, those are your only options. Because if we don't do that, our whole political system might fall apart.
Yeah, that's a grim situation in many ways.
Yeah, it's pretty sad.
I don't even have a lot to say about it beyond, like, you know, fuck Shehi.
Well, it's like it's what I.
That's not his job to escort people out of the building. He should be fucking arrested for assault. It's wild.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane that you just break a dude's fucking arm.
Yeah, the idea that like if I saw somebody getting arrested, right, and then I came in and like tackled him to the ground, like, hey, I saw what you guys were doing, boys. I just figured I'd help out. It's like, no,
yeah.
I'm going to be going in the black and whites.
Yeah, and Republicans are talking about issues of decorum, and they forget that they invaded the Capitol building and like tried to kill, you know, hang people.
That's the problem, is they don't care. They're hypocrites. They know they're hypocrites. It's why they win.
Yeah.
Like I said, it's gross. There has been basically a fundraiser for him that's raised over $60,000 so far, which is good because I imagine having your arm snapped in a door is probably not a fun time. He says that this incident, as of March 6th, it's only made him more determined to continue his run. So Godspeed, Mr. McGinnis. Let's see what else we've got. There was a big vote on releasing the report on sexual misconduct that got taken behind the shed and put down like a dog. Yeah, so the all congressional sexual misconduct and harassment reports were there was legislation on the floor to try to put that out there and let the public see it, and they said no, they're not going to do that.
No way.
Is, you know, it's sort of like it. I hate to put it like this, but you know, Toziel was absolutely right. It's like, we just hold on to these ideas that there are these reports, you know, whether it's the UFOs or the Epstein files or the Shroud of Turin or whatever. Like, there's the secret thing that's being held in a vault somewhere that they're going to release, and it's going to wake everybody up, and it's crazy. And they never actually put it out. The Epstein files have only gotten put out to the extent that they can cause massive disruption and discontent for all of us, and also, you know, give people something to scream about because it said BAA1 in the middle of it or whatever. So yeah, of course Congress isn't going to let you. I mean, like, Matt Gaetz got that one little thing released about him, and it's practically sunk his career. Now, that doesn't mean much for his type of ilk. Scum rises to the top on ponds.
Yeah, cockroaches live anywhere.
But, you know, it shows you, like, it didn't take a whole lot to be like, yeah, he's like Venmoing strippers or, you know, whatever the fuck it was. I don't even remember. I'm sorry.
I think it was underage or something.
Yeah, probably. They're all a bunch of fucking diddlers anyway. Yeah, of course they won't let you see that. And that's going to go in a grand bipartisan effort of, we can't let you see our party's dirty laundry because we're both sick, gross people. Both sides of the bird are on the files. Both sides of them are full of gross, old, perverted diddlers. I'm just saying diddler. I'm sorry. It would be the same if there was some sort of legislation to try to cut down on insider trading and stuff like that. Yeah, they're never going to vote on and allow that stuff like that to happen because they both do it. They both parties benefit from it. It's just the reminder that these people do not serve your interest. They serve BlackRock, Lockheed Martin, Halliburton, Johnson & Johnson, Kraft Foods, and the devil. That's who they work for. They don't work for you. That's another headline. I understand there probably isn't much to say, but it's just worth reminding you guys. They don't serve your interest. They don't care about you. They're not going to do anything to help you. You need to really start figuring out how you're going to get along without them. And as the economy crumbles, and as the government increasingly shows that they're not only incompetent but unwilling to do anything, you might really have to. Learn who your neighbors are. Figure out who can grow food and work on machinery. Stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, always remember the worst thing about politicians and cops is that his jobs are populated by people who think they would be good politicians and cops. That's like the major issue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that's a great way of putting
not
it.
good. So now I wonder if they're not letting the alien stuff out because the aliens were fucking kids too. Because I mean, apparently that's what it takes to bury a file. So I don't know.
I think I already made the joke that the fucking Greys were in the goddamn Epstein file.
Oh no.
Yeah, there's a little bit of levity to be had there, I suppose. It's like right before we started tempting World War III and nuclear Armageddon, there was Trump got in a tiff because Obama said something about like, yeah, aliens are probably out there. Now, hold on, let me be clear. Yeah. I did not see any aliens, but they're probably out there. And Trump was like, he can't say that.
That's classified information.
We got to release. I'm
that shit out of the bag.
And then he was like, we have to let people know. I'm going to release the files. The aliens are out there. We are not alone. And then it was like, oh, wait. Are you looking over there? You're looking over there. Quick, bomb them right now.
I guess because we're mentioning files, I guess we'll just quickly say that Pam Bondi got subpoenaed.
Yeah, about her lackluster release of the files and why stuff's missing and how come it took so long and they still haven't actually met all of their obligations. And I think this might be like Bondi already got in front of a camera and a group of men and just made an absolute fool of herself. And I thought she was going to get thrown out on her hat. But that didn't happen. So round 2?
Yeah,
I mean, is she going to give
that
us
point because Kristi Noem also has just got removed,
and now we're at part 2.
Right.
This is the other thing I was going to say is Noem got let go, which is sad because there was this story about there was one of her aides got in an altercation with a pilot because they left her blankie or something like that.
I think it was I don't know what they fucking did. They really say it was a blankie? I think they said it was some personal item or something.
That's what I heard. But it's like, but the problem is now she's out. She's on the way out. So this story isn't even that good. This story is going to be dated. It's going to be irrelevant. It's not going to matter at all by the time it comes out. But it's really funny. It's like I had all jokes about her pre-flight checklist, which is like her Paw Patrol coloring book, her blankie, and then an AK-47. The things that she needs. But it's not going to matter because now she's already out, and they're going to replace her with some schmuck from Oklahoma.
I was about to say that it's not going to be any better, but it's a pretty fucking low bar with Kristi Noem.
This guy.
Did you hear about the position that she's going to take?
No, I skimmed. I saw a headline earlier while we were getting ready, but I didn't get the chance to actually dig into it.
It's the United States Special Envoy for the Shield of the Americas.
The fuck is that?
It's something that Trump made up to give her a job.
Jesus Christ.
It is. That's what it is. It has to do with this Shields of the Americas, military cooperation sort of thing between us and parts of South America. And it's just it's a nothing burger. It's just a nothing position to give her some money and get her away from the DHS.
Botched it so bad, and somebody has to fall on their sword for this, so it's got to be her.
Well, that's the thing. They're not they're not saying, "Oh, you're fired." It's like, "Hey, we gave her a special new position, and she's gonna go do that."
Too little, too late. The headlines are already saying fired. Doesn't even say resigned. Said Trump fired her. We all know what this is. This is the rotating cast. This is the shuffling of chairs on the Titanic. This was what happened the last administration. I'm surprised it took this long to get here. We're already 2 months in. We're actually keeping pace right now. Wars aside, I'm just waiting for Hegseth. He'd have to have a bottle of Johnny Walker in his hands at the podium and then call somebody a motherfucker, and then he might get out. I thought the signal thing was going to be enough.
Well, it was twice, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
Heskett, little known fact about Heskett, he's a fucking chode. I don't know if you guys knew that or not. It was
Controversial opinion, but he's a fucking chode. But back to Bondi real quick. It's like, does anybody? I mean, last time we had a pretty good meme for a couple days. Now the shelf life on comedy is so short now. But does anyone have any predictions what insane things she'll say next time?
Well, it's going to be closed doors, so I don't know.
Oh, never mind.
Yeah. I do think she's going to be fired afterwards, more than likely. That's what I think.
Yeah, that's what I'm expecting, is that she's going to be on her way out. And that's probably for the best. I mean, if you keep like anything to slow these people from actually getting anything done by constantly having to like update and change the names on the doors and renegotiate with aides and blah, 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 and figure out that, oh no, Bondi liked her sandwiches cut this way, but this guy likes like an orphan head chopped off and put over a bowl of macaroni. That's his idea of a lunch. Anything that's just going to slow things down a little bit more to keep these demons from doing more damage is good in my book.
We got anything that's not doom and gloom?
Does anyone want to hear just a headline that makes you go, what on earth?
yes.
Yeah, sure.
Mysterious dolphin kidnapping case takes bizarre turn as victim's background raises new questions.
Okay. I'll bite.
A story that has gone viral. A 33-year-old man was found disoriented and sunburned on the Sanibel? I wish I had gone to school. A 33-year-old man was found disoriented and sunburned on the Sanibel Causeway early Monday morning. He claimed that he was abducted by a pod of dolphins and forced to labor on an elaborate underwater construction project, essentially building like a city under the sea. Lee County Sheriff's Department responded to a 911 call from a passing motorist who spotted Ricky James Hollowell standing barefoot on the shoulder of the causeway, drenched in seawater and frantically sketching diagrams in the wet sand.
Oh, no.
He later claims that the abrasions on his hands and feet were from handling coral and structural materials under the water. So he says that this man is claiming that he was at the Fort Myers beach on a Friday afternoon. They surrounded him and they just sort of a pod of bottlenose dolphins just gathered around and just sort of shanghaied him.
He was like swimming in the water.
Yeah, he was just out on the beach running laps
and
or
got
whatever.
Kidnapped into forced labor is what you're telling me.
By the dolphins.
By the dolphins.
By the dolphins.
Okay, question?
Sure.
Because the headline, what was the headline again? Take strange turn.
After his background, it raises
I'm
bizarre
sorry,
turn.
what part of his background could possibly raise more questions? This is obviously completely fucking insane. What do you mean? What questions do you have still?
It sounds like a Chaos Magic group post on Facebook.
Oh, he claims that he was under. No, you guys gotta hear the whole lore here, all right?
Oh no!
He said that he was building like an underwater city for them, and that he learned their complex language of clicks and whistles. Now, John Lilly had a full-time assistant living with a dolphin that they gave acid to, and they still didn't figure out how to make a dolphin talk to you. And this guy picked it up in an afternoon with on-the-job experience.
What the actual?
I feel like you're just hating on this guy. I mean, he's just doing his thing.
He's visionary, man. He's a very talented man. That's why they kidnapped him, I'm sure.
And he says that he was underwater for 3 days, where Gerald, the leader of the dolphins,
Fuck.
used a system of pressurized airways and bubbles to supply him with oxygen.
Yeah, damn.
Wow. That's pretty
Gerald.
great. Gerald, very
Now, my
talented
question
dolphin.
is
I see why he's
my
leading
question
the
is
project.
Gerald the name he gave him, or were they going click, 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 like Gerald?
After like 3 weeks, he's like, call me Jerry. You're cool now. Like, you're in the pod.
One of us.
I don't know if you guys agree, but I think this gentleman might be lying. I'm sorry.
Okay. Now. Okay, so let's get to the end here. Let's get to the end. All right, he insists that they got abducted on Friday, worked all of Saturday, and they let him go Sunday, saying that like, all right, you did good.
The Sabbath. Yeah.
And then they said, we might come back for you for phase 2 of the building project.
I got a tip for that guy. Don't go back to the fucking beach.
Yeah,
Like,
never
just
go
don't
back to the
Lord.
beach. Just
Never
don't
go back.
You're
Never
gonna be
go
a dolphin slave for no. Go. Move to Montana. Get away from the water.
How many weirdos are on that beach right now trying to get abducted by a pod of dolphins?
Oh god, I can just imagine a bunch of folks like in the water, just like clicking and be like, "Come
Okay.
on, I gotta get to the
Okay.
city."
Okay, so supposedly after a background check, Hollowell has an impressive professional history in aerospace engineering. He holds a master's degree in aerospace structures from MIT and previously worked for Lockheed Martin.
Hey, if Jack Parsons taught us anything, is you don't need to be really
Yeah.
smart to work in neuroscience. You know what I mean? Damn.
The sheriff's office has classified the incident as unresolved but not criminal, with no active investigations into dolphin-related abductions.
So what do you guys think?
Okay.
Do you think he's straight up lying, completely insane, or just like,
I
boy
think-
had some buzz balls and got wild? Like what?
I think he got MK Ultra at this point. That sounds wild.
Yeah,
I think someone
it's pretty
fucking
nuts.
he got fucking hit with like 40 tabs and they took him down to go like work on some ridiculous fucking project and they're like, I'm a dolphin. He's like, you're a dolphin? My name's Gerald. Yeah, keep working on the nukes.
They gave him a bunch of DMT and I had him play that Echo of the Dolphin Nintendo game for days and
And then told him to get to work.
get it done.
What do you think, co-host? What do you think happened?
Here's the problem. I really needed to get through that story. Because it's very funny and it's a great one. And I'm so glad that we live in a world where stories like that propagate and we can have a hearty belly laugh at the idea of like almost the anti-Lovecraft Deep One story where it's like, no, yeah, they're building a city under the sea, but they're all dolphins and they're cool. You know, Gerald, he'll help you out with the oxygen and yeah, Lee County Sheriff's Office have already said that this story is completely insane and did not fucking happen. So for the record, this did not. I don't think. If I'm understanding this right, they're saying this didn't happen. This is just a crazy story that people have been spreading around on social media, which is great. So far, yeah. So like this didn't happen at all.
Jesus.
And certainly there are no dolphins going around and abducting people. But I think what I'm reading is that like this just did not happen, which is just, it's so detailed. There's so much going on. I could see Gerald in my mind's eye. So there you go. You know, fake news. Just
When I think of Gerald the Dolphin, he has like hair. Well, he has like a haircut. I don't know why. Like, I see he has like a wig or
yeah,
something.
absolutely. Yeah, this is a fabricated story. It didn't happen, but I do. It really absolutely tickles me.
Cue the fact or
And-
fiction. We made it up.
Yeah, we made it up. Never happened. Pure fiction. But maybe in these dark moments, what we need is a story that serves the righteousness of the people rather than the cold hard regurgitation of fact.
Yeah.
I don't know. I actually kind of think that I kind of think that maybe they're lying to us.
A double lie. I didn't realize they could both be lying.
Dude, Gerald was at the police station and Gerald was like, you fucking crush this now or I will kill you. Sure, Gerald. I'll be doing my duty next weekend.
I love the idea that dolphins have a 1-day work week. Is that it? It's like, yeah, just grab a dude, have him work for an afternoon, and then let him go. Tell him that we'll give him a call back. If we need you, we'll call you.
I made the joke that it was a dolphin slavery, but what actually is it's forced dolphin contract labor. Like, they get you for one job, and then they're like, we'll call you if we want you again.
That must be such a relief. Like, the dolphins kidnap you, and you're like, fuck, I'm a slave forever. And then the next day, they're like, you good? You can go.
What?
You're like, nice.
Yeah, good job,
nice.
man.
We might
Here's
come
a
find you in like
mackerel.
6 months.
This was actually cool.
He's like, I did get shanghaied, but I made some friends. I networked a little bit. I learned a new language.
Mr. Ricky James Hollowell is probably just looking at the job market for an aerospace engineer and being like, are you sure you don't need me? I can do other stuff.
Genesis for getting Benny on the pod today actually originated out of a completely random conversation between the two of us. It was right when they first joined the Discord. We didn't really know them particularly well yet, but we had somehow got onto the topic of like the great American novel. And then that led into talking about poetry. We just sort of spontaneously came up with the idea of like, man, like poetry is an angle in occultism that is really present. It's really there, and it doesn't get talked about enough, not from like a literary standpoint or from like a practical application standpoint either. But it's ever present. There's no like established tradition that doesn't have some aspect of poetry within it, and there's a large number of sources of what is essentially occult poetry. We've talked about Doolittle on the Patreon before, heavily influenced. Lots of people, Kerouac and the Beats are thoroughly saturated with spiritual and Eastern thought. William Burroughs himself is like a big grandfather of chaos magic in many ways, and again, a poet.
Burroughs and Geison's method of the cut-up is a method of poetry. It's a method of writing that is explicitly filled with occult influence and occult ideas around it. Burroughs said that sometimes by cutting up the present, the future bleeds out, where he says he gives the example of using a news story in the cut-up method, and the line, "It's a terrible thing to sue your father." And it was a story surrounding some rich family and then of course what happens afterwards is the son of some rich industrialist sues his own father for all this money, and seeing the ways in which this information, where by taking what was present could reveal something of what was to come. I could go off on a whole rant, and maybe I will in a little bit later, but Burroughs was one of those people that felt very firmly that the writing process was a magical one. I think poetry at its core is a great example of the ways of carrying those subtle energies, those currents, those influences to produce profound changes within the listener or the reader. And that in a very real way is a magical process.
What I think is so important about poetry is that it's distinct from the other sort of aspects of writing as magic that we typically deal with. There is poetic qualities in invocation. There's poetic qualities in just virtually any verbal component of a magical practice, really. But specifically poetry and verse has a deep tie into the history of like spiritual and metaphysical work in general, right? The farthest back records of what we could consider spiritual workings tend to be poetry, essentially. It's this deep reserve of being able to use language in non-ordinary ways that lends itself well to speaking of things that are beyond that sort of grasp and trying to touch something. In the contemporary moment, we have the ability to start looking at these as techniques, as technology, as things to as practices, as things to deal with. Because I'm a big brainy loser, obviously, I had to go find a quote. The artist possesses essential insight for the possible, for bringing out the inner possibilities of beings, thus making man see what it really is with which he so blindly busies himself. What is essential in the discovery of reality happened and happens not through science, but through primordial philosophy, as well as through great poetry and its projections. Poetry makes beings more beingful. So go ahead and take a drink, because you know who that is. Yeah, there's my Heidegger quote. But
Heidegger, drink!
I think it speaks to something within the magical use of any art form, but specifically poetry. There is a way in which the imagination is what makes possibilities present, and a large portion of doing magic in the contemporary moment of the chaos magicians, of the folk coyote mentality, of even just of large eclectic sort of practices in general, is this sort of imagination quality. I mean, you and I have talked about on the show, co-host, like constantly about how big we are in the imagination. We'll talk William Blake all damn day. That's definitely the area where I think poetry and magic sort of link up. They're both these unusual practices that we have for dealing with the world in a very different way, because this is, I guess, a quick distinction that I don't think we make often. Like, we have tons of ritual in society, right? Just tons of things that we do that are just ritualistic, but there is a discernible difference between basic rituals of a society and like magical ritual, just in the same way as there's a difference between, not to knock him, like Shel Silverstein poetry, Maya Angelou poetry, and something like, well, I guess the kind of stuff we're going to end up talking about in a minute, because Benny, who did all the research, the real research, this has all just been the meandering thoughts beforehand, has a handful of examples that are hopefully going to kind of demonstrate what we're talking about and then lead us to somewhere a little more practical. Is that kind of the goal?
I take umbrage. I take umbrage with you throwing Shel Silverstein out there, because Sandra's seen a leprechaun, Eddie touched a troll, Laura danced with witches once, Charlie found some goblins' gold, Donald heard a mermaid sing, Susie spied an elf, but all the magic I have known, I've had to make myself.
Yeah.
God.
So shut up.
All right.
Yeah, no. Actually, podcast done.
Take Maya Angelou. Take Maya Angelou. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
I've never been dunked on, so that's crazy. I'm glad I didn't say show folks. That's rude. My goodness.
Don't get me started on C-Spot Run.
Yeah, so when I started researching this, I kind of thought I was going to end up with a bunch of examples of kind of occultism, magic, and poetry. And my thought process is really kind of migrated into a different realm of using poetry in a magical sense, and using it as a way to get results. And so I've kind of got a mix of that ready for everybody. Like we said earlier, I mean, poetry's been around for a long time. It's taken a lot of different forms. And in early occult stuff like the Orphic hymns, the Odyssey, the Bible, I mean, it's very prevalent. And a lot of those forms of poetry are very narrative, where they're describing an exact thing. And a lot of the poetry that I'm going to be kind of speaking to and pointing to today is a little bit more modernist, and it's a little bit more obscure, if that makes sense.
Oh yes, definitely.
Because I think there's some powers within that are quite interesting. Usually when the poetry talk starts, people's brains stop. There's a pretty there's nothing more lame than poetry to a lot of people. And I think a lot of that has to do with what we've been exposed to in school or through the media, like, Maya Angelou or
Robert Frost,
sonnets. Yeah, Robert Frost, Shakespeare, rhyming, all that stuff. But there's, trust me, bro, there's a cool poetry, bro. Like, you gotta
trust me, bro. It's a different strain of poetry, bro.
There's a really cool poetry, bro. You just gotta feel it, bro. Trust me. It's a real thing. People like it. And that's kind of what I was going to point at. And I tried to think of like, what's the quickest way to get people to understand like the difference between like rhyming meter and like freeform modernist poetry. And that brought me, so I was like, what's the most nonsensical thing I can find that is still really good? And I know you guys both like Charles Bukowski.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
So I found a sentence by Charles Bukowski that I think it's perfect in meter, it's perfect in word choice, and it means nothing. I dreamed I drank an arrow shirt and stole a broken pail. Like, to me, that's lovely. It means nothing, but it has meter, and it evokes something. I don't know what you guys felt, but it has a power to it.
Oh,
With
definitely.
its absence of meaning, there's something to it. So I kind of want to go into, in a little bit, using poetry in different magical ways. But I did want to touch on the different ways that poetry has been featured in occultism, or occultism has been featured in poetry. Back in the day, basically all poetry was religious or spiritual. So I don't think we need to really go into like the old world very much.
Oh, no, definitely. I don't think so. I think I kind of wrapped it up the best you could there. It's a very different attempt at poetry because, again, at the time they lived in a very different world where, much like where chaos magic, I think, really gets interesting when we hit post-modernity, or at least, late modernity. That's the same era that, poetry for me really speaks to. I mean, I'm a big fan of Whitman, and I really like the Odyssey and stuff. I have an appreciation of older poetry, but it's just such a different animal compared to talking about someone like Charles Olson or something.
For sure. And we're going to talk about Whitman. Whitman was a time traveler. That guy was ahead of his times.
Yeah, definitely.
It might be worth acknowledging, too, that, there's people like Yeats. Crowley wrote poetry. That there are examples of people who viewed their poetic and their literary work, the writing of poetry, as a facet of their spiritual development, or or at least a reflection of their spiritual development. That these things are not always held at two ends from one another. That quite often they one does feed into the other in the same way that any form of art might. Art and magic seem to have always been joined at the hip.
Yeah, and poetry is a very odd thing, especially when you look at more modern poetry, in that poetry is it's almost more music and visual art than it is writing, if that makes sense.
Yes, yeah.
Like, poetry is defined by meter, typically, and meter is a musical application. Poetry is using words to give someone an impression of a feeling, whereas like just straight up writing is just the transference of information. Poetry is interesting in that, like, if you put what you're trying to say out too much, it's considered bad poetry, right? If you tell instead of show, it's bad poetry. So it's quite interesting that like poetry has a very odd way that it operates within the human mind. One of the things that you will hear a lot of people talk about, to the extent that there were poets that came out against this idea, is that poetry has an automatic vibe to it. People talk about it flowing out of them. People talk about it kind of occurring without their control. When you look at someone writing a novel, it's typically very well planned out. A lot of poetry kind of has a free-form vibe to it, where you're sitting down and the things that are coming out aren't necessarily pre-planned. It's kind of just occurring, and it has an automatic vibe. Kennedy, I know you write poetry. Have you ever felt that before?
Oh, yes. I mean, that's where all my poetry comes from. I'm not someone that actually, I very rarely sit down and say, all right, I'm gonna write a poem. Most of the time, it for me at least, it's something that overcomes me with the moment. I'm like, well, I'm gonna put this into a poem, or a line or something will come to me, and then I'll write it down, and the rest will just pour out from there. It is a very automatic sort of experience for me.
Yeah, and I mean, and you have early guys like Rimbaud. Rimbaud said that this shit was just flowing out of him. Like Rimbaud, one of his earliest essays when he was 15 was called The Seer, where he basically started to talk about like his belief that the poetry he was writing wasn't coming from him, that it was some sort of scrying mechanism where in his state he was basically channeling something. If you look at stuff like Ezra Pound's The Cantos, have you read those?
Oh
Yeah.
God, yes.
Yeah, I mean, he basically stated that like this stuff is coming from somewhere else. Like this is in a static state that is occurring, and these words are kind of pouring out. And it got to the point where William Carlos Williams, who's a very, very, very famous and qualified poet, kind of came out against the people that were saying this is a thing and saying like, no, the artist is responsible for it. It's rather interesting, and I believe because poetry is such a liminal thing where it spans intentionality and automatic writing. It kind of spans the two, that it almost creates a mindset where a lot of poets ended up getting into occulty stuff just because it kind of was a vibe that already fit them because they were so used to it. Sylvia Plath, she did a lot of Ouija board work. She was speaking to her father who had passed away. She wrote a book called Colossus about it. I feel like the poet, through the practice of this state that you get into when you're writing it, it's really close to the state of the magician when they're trying to bend reality, which I think is very useful. If you look at a lot of the modernists like T.S. Eliot in The Wasteland goes heavy into tarot, and he's talking about tarot cards and the way they're predicting the protagonist or the antagonist of the poem's future, fear death by water. I think these ethereal themes work so well with poetry because poetry itself is ethereal. Poetry itself is occult. It's obscured. You're obscuring meaning as an art form. I don't know. Did I go off on a bad tangent there?
No, that's
No.
we were captivated, my friend. Yeah, no, I was
Cool.
just thinking about the because to ground it again, something practical, real quick, right? Just the simple concept behind a sigil, right, is this sort of purposeful obfuscation of intent of an idea, and so very much of poetry is built on what's said in between the lines.
Absolutely.
Like you already said before, it's a sign of very bad poetry if you just if you read it and it reads like it's telling you something, like a guy's just standing there telling you a story or something like that.
Yeah.
There's this purposeful level of, again, like what I'd call like disconnect from the world itself, right? It's not good poetry is not talking about things. It's not talking about objects out there somewhere for you to like make points about. Again, maybe earlier poetry was attempting to do something like that.
Of course.
But even so, I think so much of contemporary poetry and modern forward really is built on, again, the same ground that Heidegger was fucking talking about earlier. This way that the imagination itself, this kind of dream world where we pull ideas from, it operates in the same area that magic does. These attempts to pull something that's purposely out of sight, something that you can't just deal with as if the same way you deal with like hammering a nail.
Yeah.
Even when we as very practice-oriented and utility-focused, results-based magicians engage in these sorts of things, it's still always within that area. It's what did I say? It's like chaos magic has as close to as a empirical approach to magic, right? Or it should be, at least, at its best. But there's a reason why it's not real empiricism, because we're very much always operating in what you can get away with, right? What you can get away with saying and what you can get away with as far as goading reality into a shape you enjoy. Does that make any sense? Did I go on a bad tangent?
No, that was good.
When we were discussing this episode, or this culture piece specifically, I used an example of that. When it came to painting, there was a time where the hallmark of what made a good painting was how close to reality you were able to, essentially, how close to reality were you able to get this painting. And then with the advent of the camera, it completely blew that foundation out from under us. And that's how you get so much of the that's how you get to Rothko with his giant squares of color. That's how you get to the surrealists. That's how you get to people like Dali. That's how you get to people like Picasso with Cubism. That's how you get to the entire Impressionist movement. The idea of painting that was meant not as a means of accentuating or translating visual information, instead became about the cultivation of a perception, a perspective of reality, of an experience, of a cultivation of feeling, of emotion, of quality that could not be so easily diced up and put under a magnifying glass. And poetry, in its way, did not have that same constraint on it ever. But particularly as we have gone forward in time, there is less and less constraint at all. There's very little sense when we using the Bukowski line from earlier, where it's sometimes there are lines that may not convey much in the way of information, but they are brushstrokes in the terms of cadence, in meter, in just the sounds of how particular syllables bounce off of your ears and produce certain feeling, produce certain subtle responses within the human being. And it might just be a case of, well, it only works in a particular context, in a particular culture, or sometimes it just has to be like, if this is your vibe, it's going to do something really great. I know a lot of people that like Maya Angelou. I know a lot of people that like Walt Whitman, but I also know as many people that can't stand them. I have a lot of poets that I really like, that I think are good, and I don't expect anybody to think they're great in a universal context. But poetry, if we were to ever point at poetry as in like the utility of like, well, what does it do? What does poetry do? It would be something in that general area, the idea of the cultivation of subtle responses that are below the surface, using a particular medium of either written or spoken sort of meter, pattern, cadence, that sort of thing. And because I'm just going now. I'm just going. Sorry. To point to what we were talking about just a moment ago, the idea of poetry being that thing that falls out from you, that comes from another source. At the very least, we can say that it is something that when it is flowing like that, when that creative process, whether it's poetry or anything else really, but like those sort of automatic writing, those things where it seems almost like you are possessed to get something out there. There seems to be this a parallel in Magick where we become aware of ourselves as being far grander than our very narrow conscious awareness seems to indicate. And whether you call that experiencing the gods or being in contact with the spirits or Zen that's something we didn't even touch on, Zen is full of like poetics as means to achieve enlightenment and stuff like that. But however you want to call it, whatever you're in contact with, it seems to be speaking to a sense of the self that is greater than the narrow confines. And I think Magick is loaded with that. The idea of the invocation of a god form seems to point at the idea of the conscious self that we are experiencing is much more narrow and constrained than we are than it actually is. Our experience of it is far more subdued and tight than it actually is. And whether it's magic or poetry, these are things that can open the door to that grander experience of the self, or in some cases the grander experience of the world. It's poetics that turned all up. I mentioned Don Quixote in the last video we put up. I'll mention him again. He's one of my spiritual teachers. But it's poetics that turned the windmill, that changed the windmill into the four-armed whirling angry giant. It's poetry can remake your world if you let its spirit within you.
Yeah, absolutely. And
now I've gone on too much. Sorry.
no, you're good. You're good. I didn't know. I'll let you guys decide if it's a good idea or not. Like, I do not want to turn this into a poetry reading because that's just gonna make people unsubscribe, and you're gonna lose a lot of $5.
I don't think so. I think you're wrong, actually. Is there something you want to read? Is there something you want to use as like an example here?
Yeah, so I kind of tried to deep dive because I wanted to bring the idea of language being encoded with a feeling or vibe without necessarily needing to explain anything. I found a poem that I've always found quite magical. It's by a guy named Paul Celan, and the poem is called Maitre de Breton. Have you heard that one before?
I'm a huge fan of Salon.
What? I've never heard this guy at all.
He's super good.
We've got a perfect test case then.
Yeah, so what I wanted to do is maybe I would read it, and then you guys could say what you felt, and we could see if there's things that touch there, if what you guys see in something that would be considered quite abstract, and kind of go from there, and the reader can kind of think, or the listeners can kind of think the same thing. So I don't know if you guys want me to read a poem, but I can do that if that's what you want to do.
I mean, I'm down for this experiment. Go for it. Yeah.
All right. And I feel like it's something that really hits to what we're talking about with modernist poetry, because it's quite abstract, but it's a fucking banger. So yeah, it's called Maitre de Breton. Gorse light, yellow. The slopes separate heavenward. The thorn woos the wound. Bells ring within. It is evening. Nothing rolls its seas to the surface. The blood sail makes for you. Dry, the bed behind you fills with silt. Its hour clogs with rushes above. By the star, the milky tideways jabber through mud. Date shell, below, bunched, yawns into blueness. A shrub of transius. Beautiful meets your memory, greets it. Did you know me, hands? I went the forked way you showed me. My mouth spewed out its chippings. I went my time. A shifting snow wall cast its shadow. Did you know me? Hands, the thorn wound, hands, nothing is ringing its seas. Hands in the gorse light, the blood sail makes for you. You teach. You teach your hands. You teach your hands, you teach. You teach your hands how to sleep. And
chills.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Okay, for me, there's this overwhelming sense of almost decay, of things falling apart in a way. I don't know. It seems almost in that sort of contemplation of time in an odd way, of just looking back at things and seeing the ways in which we are broken down over time, and seeing the inevitable in us, and looking back on where we have come and where we are going, and knowing that there's only one place to go to. That's my there you go. That's my general vibe of what I heard.
I mean, that's what I get. Entropy, you know? Like,
that's a good word for it. That's a great word for it. Yeah.
There's a level of the decay of the social, of the self, the way in which we participate in the going to the blood sale.
yeah.
Anyway, yeah, sorry. I really like that one. You and I have talked about this one before, actually.
See,
I believe.
I've never heard that one, so this is really doing its thing. You know, I didn't go to school, so
it's such a banger. I always thought that the end of the Hollow Man was the best ending of a poem, but I feel like that's the best ending of a poem, that you teach your hands to sleep. But like that, to me, like I read that and I get these chills and I get these vibes, but it doesn't say anything, you know, it's not telling me anything. It's just making me feel things. And that's quite powerful and quite interesting. And I think there's application for the use of that in magic. So I'll let you guys choose, so we can go into using poetry and magic, or we can talk about the time a Ouija board won the fucking Pulitzer Prize for poetry.
I think we'll go ahead and let's do James Merrill, and we'll end on the more practical applications of it, I think.
Okay. So a lot of, we've talked on poetry and occultism, like poetry being part of, the ancient world. We've talked about poets that got into occultism, but occultism won a Pulitzer Prize. There was a guy named James Merrill and his partner, David Jackson, and they started to use Ouija boards a lot. And it culminated in a very small book called Ephraim, which was added into James Merrill's book, The Divine Comedies, and that won the Pulitzer Prize in 1977. And because of that, Merrill felt that he had to be truthful, and he came out that a lot of the poetry in that book was directly from the Ouija board. So that's kind of nuts. So he continued to do it, and he continued to do it with his partner, and they went over these long sessions. It was like the late 70s, and they kept accumulating these prophecies and poems that the Ouija board was putting out, and they put it into a giant book called The Changing Light at Sandover. Everything in the book that is in all caps is from a Ouija board. And there's an interesting thing that I don't think, have either of you read it before?
No, I hadn't, because when you told me about it, my mind was blown. I didn't even know this existed.
Yeah. So one of the things, and this is like, I don't know, it's fucking weird. So it's going to hit for us a little different than how it would have hit the generation before us, because the Ouija board uses text message speech.
Really now?
Dude, it's weird. Instead of you, YOU, it uses you, or it'll use YR. It shortens words down in the ways that we do in text messages. It's pretty crazy. So I was kind of like, what can I bring to these listeners that the Ouija board was trying to tell them so succinctly that it won a Pulitzer Prize? One of the first things that came out of that Ouija board was a sentence. It's hard not to yell these because they're in all caps. A basic precept U, the letter U, a basic precept you will need to take on faith. There is no accident. I feel like if we were using a Ouija board and it said that, that would be pretty profound.
Absolutely.
I found the Ouija board talking about what we're talking about, which is the power of language and the using of language. This is the Ouija board talking. Man plays a tune in colors. The vibrations of music lights up machines. Simpler yet, right azure, the language conducting brain is flooded with a tone of summer skies. The painter's pigments are blankly seen. They contain no light. Are not paintings blank in a dark room? And even the live white light shed upon them appears but to dim them further. That's fucking
Jesus
wild.
Christ.
Yeah.
That could fit in any like legitimate like spooky channel text you could find. Like that's fucking
dude, it's
amazing.
It's a hit. And like, you know, like if you write the word azure, you see a summer sky, that's chaos magic. Like that's postmodern magic. And like the paintings being dull in the dark room, but when the light comes on, it also dulls them. Like it's wild. And so Marilyn Jackson are doing this, and like we have these records of people scrying together or getting spiritual information as a team, right? Like look at the Baptist Head stuff that was Duncan Barford and
Alan Chapman,
you know?
yeah. Mm-hmm.
When you read the accounts, or like Meryl's talking about, like you've seen like Ghost Adventures and like the Ghost Bros shows and stuff.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
That was the reaction vibe that these two partners had, where they're just like, what the fuck? Like, what is happening? You know? Fully blowing their minds. Another excerpt that I found of a Pulitzer Prize winning poetry book written by Ouija board. We saw the power, and with it built a great glory, a world you could not imagine. So could is spelled CD. So it's always using these weird abbreviations. A world you cannot imagine. God was pleased. It was a shining crust over the land and sea. We suspended all life in an ozone layer, weightless and self-sustaining, chemical, glittering, and rootless, which the atom built that we fused. God be turned against his archangels. They had seen that we were antimatter. So that's
what and goddamn,
just a Ouija board saying that we have defiled God through nuclear technology, and the archangels will not save us now because we are antimatter.
God, there's some things. It really is astounding stuff. You can imagine getting that, and a lesser person turning that into a cult. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
That's powerful shit.
Or even in a way too, right? You could see that kind of, because I don't know about you guys. I've done stuff like this before, and I've gotten weird messages, and it's like, it's like, oh, that's neat. And then you forget about it and stuff. And it's sometimes you really need to look at, that might be part of why it's useful to have a partner. Or maybe it's sort of like the Burroughs-Geisen third mind thing, where it's like when two minds get together, there's the unseen participant or something. That maybe that's why there's so many notable scrying pairs throughout history.
Yeah.
But I've gotten weird stuff like that and discarded it. And then sometimes you really miss out on man, that was actually pretty cool stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's heavy. So in the books, when Merrill's writing them, you have the Ouija board talking, and then he will write around it. It's kind of jazzy, right? He will improv off what the Ouija board says. His writing is always in lowercase. The Ouija board is always in uppercase. Merrill was a very prolific poet. One of the things you can do with a poet is you can kind of figure out their tricks. Like the way they use meter, the way they use alliteration.
There's a footprint.
Yeah. When you compare the Ouija board to Merrill, they do not come close to each other.
Essentially, at least, well, and there's always the chance, but that would, but there's at least by looking at this, they're saying, well, and this is when we harp on things where it's like, it doesn't matter if this is a facet of a sort of shared unconscious impulse between two people or a single person and an oracular means. Does it matter if it's a ghost? Is it some embodiment of the future screaming out from beyond the veil, or is it a god? Not necessarily that important given the context.
Yeah.
What matters is that at least on some aspect you can point and say, this is not the conscious mind of, the uppercase here is not the same a conscious awareness that is operating the lowercase under here. These are two distinctly different sort of thought patterns that are producing these separate pieces of this work.
Absolutely.
That part alone is fascinating enough without even bringing
Absolutely.
Ghosties and bugaboos. The idea that it's you can do this and tap into a completely different part of yourself or some greater self or a completely separate entity, but you can produce these texts that are not of you,
Yeah. I don't think most people know a Ouija board won a Pulitzer Prize in poetry. I think it's fantastic.
We should all go read it.
Yeah, because the thing about the Fading Light in Hanover is it hits, and I think each person it's weird, right? So it's kind of like tarot reading, right? Everybody has a different view of the cards. This is laid out as communications to everybody. It's not always specific to Merrill or Jackson. So these communications are to you. And I mean, I don't know. When I see something talking about, God turning his back on us and archangels not helping us because we're now antimatter because we created things that destroy matter, that's probably worth listening to. That's heavy to me. One of the concepts I want to talk about too with poetry that I think is interesting is because of that freeform nature. So I do Estes sessions. You guys know what those are?
That's when you tune yourself into the static and stuff.
Yeah, with the blindfolds and the headphones and stuff.
I always heard it was the ping pong balls. I've done that a couple times.
Yeah. So I'll do the listening and the talking, but I don't participate in the decoding. I on a personal level, I don't really care what was said. I'm not interested in it. But there's a level of the person who received the message or the two people together kind of have to comb over what was said and piece it together and figure it out, right? And I've always had a theory that in a way, a lot of these divination methods that give us incomplete information, when we're reading them and interpreting them, we're looking at them, or if you threw bones, or if you're doing, looking at molten lead or reading birds, anything, you're kind of scrying reality, right? You have created this magical force in consensus reality. The cards are laid out, the dice are out, the birds are flying in a certain way. And you're now scrying that piece of reality to make sense of it. And I feel with Ouija board stuff, with SE session stuff, ghost box stuff, you're kind of scrying the results. You're using your intuition to see where things piece together. And it's interesting because automatic writing, Kennedy, I know you do automatic writing. Coco does, Venus does, I do. We kind of do it, and I don't know about you, but do you look at it after and try to figure it out sometimes?
I mean, a bit. I probably not as much as I should, I guess, but just the way in which I do it, typically it has like some sort of either purpose or something I'm trying to get out of it. And if I don't get what I'm getting out of it immediately, I usually just call it a wash.
Got you. Okay.
That's just me though. I don't have time to be spending sitting at the keyboard waiting for the spirits to tell me if they're going to tell me what I want to hear.
Got you. I was talking about the automatic sigils, like the handwriting stuff. Yeah. So like when something kind of pours out of somebody, it's interesting because I feel like you can find meaning in it that because they weren't necessarily aware of what they were doing, there's room for us to do interpretation that might have meaning. And one of the examples I brought up was the ending of the Hollow Men. Are you familiar with that, Kennedy?
Yeah. We've talked about it before.
Yeah, so like I was gonna show that to the listener, just because like Elliot admits he doesn't really know what he's saying when he's doing this shit. Elliot was often accused of trickery. Like people would say, you're just good at writing, so you just make things that sound good that have no meaning. As though that's a bad thing.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? So the ending of the Hollow Men starts with a children's song. Here we go around the prickly pear, prickly pear, prickly pear. Here we go around the prickly pear at 5 o'clock in the morning. Between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act, falls the shadow, for thine is the kingdom. Between conception and creation, between emotion and response, falls the shadow. Life is very long. Between the desire and the spasm, between the potency and the existence, between the essence and the descent, falls the shadow. For thine is the kingdom. For thine is, life is. For thine is the. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but a whimper. I haven't heard much shit more magical than that in my entire life. I don't know about you guys.
It's magical in the purest sense of it. It's evocative, right? Not just in the emotional sense. It's evocative of something beyond us, or that's the kind of way we phrase it. And I have to give myself the smacks on the back of the knuckle saying no. Cartesianism.
Well, it's also worth noting that piece of poetry, that line, I mean, the phrase "not with a bang, but with a whimper" has echoed across decades.
Yeah.
Not only is it so evocative and powerful, but the very notion that a single line of it has carried across time, that it's common tongue. It's something that people say without knowing the origin.
Yeah.
There is at least one person listening that it's like, oh, that's where we get that from.
And it's powerful. So like one thing I would say was, and I don't have an answer to this, but Elliot was in this state. He was writing this poem. What was he saying that he didn't know he was saying? Is there a prophecy in that? Is there a message that he wanted to get to us that he wasn't aware? There's a lot going on in something that strong and that powerful. And we can all agree that just as a piece of poetry, he wrote it so well with like the interchanging, Lord's Prayer, things like there's a lot going on, but like that state is a state that, I don't know, a lot can come out of it. And that kind of leads into ways poetry can be used in magic as practice. So kind of stepping away from the history and what have you, and, the interesting aspects and what it is, and going into practice. So I had a couple ideas on that. The first way I think we could use poetry is heavily involving the more abstract style of poetry. So you sit down and you just start writing. And every time that self-censor comes up, you kill it. Every time you find yourself showing and not not saying, you kill it. Every time you start getting coherent, you kill it. Because I think poetry can be used, and I have used it as a scrying method, where if I'm chewing on something and I don't know what's going on. Why do I feel this? Why is this vibe on me? What's happening? I can start writing. And I find that as my hand moves, as you start to get in that flow state where you're using language and you're using abstract language, you're using obscure language, you're focusing more on the meter than you are on the words. Stuff starts to kind of come out. Kennedy, I know, Coast, do you write poetry?
Yeah, I do actually.
Cool. So,
I've been a lyricist for many years. I've done a lot of
oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, I forgot. So you feel me? Like, have you been in that state where you're kind of writing basically nonsense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'll say that I think a lot of times when you're writing really good, when you're writing really well, I think you don't even realize you're just letting stuff go, and there might be the small recognition of like, oh, this hits and this hits and this hits and this hits. But you're not paying attention so much to what you're writing, and then it's sort of almost on the back end as you're going through this little. There's always. Even if something came out in a great deluge of words, you might go back and reread it and be like, well, I can work this around a little better or something like that. Sometimes you ruin stuff like that. Sometimes you think you're fixing something and it's like, oh no, I just killed this.
Yeah.
But yeah, the idea of using writing to achieve, particularly when you have no goal in mind, or when your goal isn't like, I'm not writing to an audience, I'm writing for me as part of my practice, like using the example of like, I have some vibe on me, I have something that's working under the surface, I need to figure it out. In those kinds of processes, using writing till you achieve something akin to a flow state, I think is like you find that sweet spot where things are able to just come out. And you aren't there in the same way that you are when you're just sitting here talking to somebody, when the words start coming and you're not held up on that same level of concrete meaning, and you're just letting things come out in a way that, even if it's only on a personal level, hits that mark. You can feel that bump, 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 bump with everything that you're saying out. It becomes it's immediately apparent to you when you're doing it. But yeah, I think in a lot of ways that can be really useful when you're trying to tap into something that's like going on, like I said, underneath the surface, something going on inside you, or trying to reach out to something in that sense of like something greater than that self that you are tied to, that small sense of self, that dude that's like, I'm just grubby little co-host going around on the earth, paying bills. That guy kind of sucks in the grand scheme of things, compared to the plurality, that great capital S sense of self that is hooked up to everything else in the universe.
Yeah, and it's interesting because stuff starts to bubble up, and then like find something, and it's quite interesting. And for the listeners, I would recommend, like, I know, like, writing poetry, if that sounds intimidating, you don't have to worry about writing poems. You don't have to worry about line breaks and making it look nice. You can just drill sentences. Just write sentence, skip a new sentence, skip a new sentence. One of the best poetic works out there, in my opinion, is from an author that I hate named F. Scott Fitzgerald. He went completely batshit and had to go to a sanitarium. And while he was there, he just wrote because he's a professional writer, but he couldn't write in the way that he knew how anymore. So he spent a lot of time. He would just write sentence after sentence after sentence. Each time it was a new thing, new thing, new thing. It got compiled into a book called The Crack Up, which is like A+ fantastic. But you don't have to try to write whole poems. It's using language to let things bubble to the surface. The other thing about it is you don't have to worry about it being good. You don't have to worry about it being like the best poem on the planet.
That's what I would drill into people, is that I think that when you're writing one, remember what Vonnegut said about like, the you should learn to write stuff just for the sake of writing it. You should learn to engage with the creative process just because you're a human being, and that's what we do. Don't be hung up on whether it's good. Don't be hung up on whether it's better than somebody else. Don't be hung up on like, oh man, I don't really like, you should do it just to enjoy it as a facet of being a human. But also, I think it's important that if you're going to do this with any sort of like, let's do some woo-woo with it, really remember, just keep reminding yourself when you're about to start this. It's like, no one in the world is going to see this, or no one has to see this if you don't like it. If you sit down and you do this and you think this is all bunk and you hate it, whatever, it's fine. Who cares? Nobody is going to see it. Learn to write and and I say this as somebody who's got a podcast that is playing to an audience and courting controversy and being an opportunistic hack to try to climb my way to the top. That's like, I definitely think of what I do a lot of times in terms of what I put on the socials or what we do on the show, in terms of like, there is an audience that is going to hear this. But when I'm writing for like me, I'm writing for me, and you should really tap into that. Write for yourself. Tap into that creative process without the audience, because that's where you're going to find the stuff that's actually worth a damn. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely. It's a personal preference, until you decide it's not. But you don't need to judge first thought, best thought, like all the way through.
Oh yeah,
especially with this type of stuff. I think poetry can be used as a sigil, and I don't think it's a very advanced concept, but it's something. So when we make what's the stereotypical sigil is the squiggle, right?
Write something, take out the vowels and things, turn it into a squiggle.
A lot of my sigils are just kind of like automatic drawing or whatever. It's not like a ghost is making me do it. It's just mindless doodling. The sigil is basically just a symbol, and words can be symbolic as well. But a sigil doesn't tell you what it's about, and words don't have to tell you what they're about either. So let's say you came up with just a nice sounding run of words as a sigil. So you could, while you're kind of writing your sentences or letting this flow out of you, you're thinking about your intention, or you're thinking about your desire, the thing you want to happen. So I can almost guarantee that you'll find like a 3 to 5 kind of word phrase. And it's not a sentence, it's not something coherent, but you can say like, you'll kind of click with it. It'll kind of vibe with you. And I think that's your sigil. And you can fire that in whatever way you fire your sigils, if you fire your sigils. But it's a way of encoding language. And when I draw sigils, I know they're done when they tell me they're done. And it's a very similar process here. Is like, I know the right words when I find the right words. I think a lot of people have done bibliomantic sigils before, where it's like you open a book, you grab 3 random words, and that's your sigil. I'm sure you guys have heard of that before.
Oh, yeah.
I think this process might have a little more meat on the bones simply because it's self-generated. And I always feel like self-generated magic slaps a little harder. I don't know if that's wrong or right, but that's what I feel.
You're saying this. I've kind of got this idea of maybe this is an exercise that like using the example that you gave. That's one exercise. Maybe this could be a slightly altered one for somebody who maybe they're not quite as confident in their ability to tap into that fountainhead. Say you took your statement of intent, like you were going to start with a sigil, right? Say you sat there and you kept reworking the wording of this intent and not holding on, like, I'm not holding on to the meaning of this sentence. I'm just sort of rewriting and reworking the words and the syllable structure of what's in front of me until something hits that mark for me. Because then you're left with a statement of intent that is now sufficiently obfuscated into another form of poetics that you could fire that off. You could use it like a mantra. You can fire it off as like a verbal sigil, something like that. Sorry, that was just something that came into my head while you were talking about this. I thought that's where you were going to go with it initially, but just throwing, if we're the idea of like, we're just throwing stuff out there that the listener might be able to try and get some use out of.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I never thought of that. I don't use statements of intent. So like, I never thought of that. And I think that's a genius way to go about it, because I think most people do. So that's smart.
Yeah, I think it's a pretty common enough thing.
And I mean, we talked about the cut ups. You can cut up a piece of paper and just cast it and
Oh yeah, cut-ups are perfect for this sort of thing. And if we're talking about cut-ups again talking Burroughs and Geisen, maybe not necessarily poetry specifically, but Burroughs during a workshop, you can find it on YouTube where he's talking about creative writing. He talks about the idea of using writing as a tool to try to bring about something, where he says, like, if you were stranded on an island, would you continue to write? And he says, yes, I would write about a ship coming to pick me up. And I would write all of the details I could about this to get this ship to this island. But then he also used the examples like sometimes you write something to keep things from happening. And I wasn't quite sure what he meant. And then I heard Stephen King talk about how he was a man riddled by fears and anxieties. And he said, what I do is I always take all my fears and anxieties and I just turn them into a book. That way they don't happen. It's like they happened for this book. They don't happen to me. Yeah. I was like, damn, oh, okay, I see the way in which the creative process can almost the writing process can almost become the scapegoat of like, well, I don't want this thing to happen, so instead I'm going to throw it off here and then I'm never going to deal with it again. There's lots of fascinating ways. I guess maybe I'm bringing this up just to say, guys, there's a lot of different types of magic that you can do that don't rely on like jerking off to a squiggle or just cribbing something from old ceremonial magic. There are ways to approach woo-woo with and granted, I'm talking about Burroughs and Stephen King. They're not exactly top of the line. I guess maybe like if I really wanted to be topical, it would be like you got to make a TikTok with a QR code sigil, and I don't know. I'm old. I'm very old is what I'm saying.
What you said there was odd synchronicity, because my third one is the one that I think has the most potent capabilities, which is poetry as a hyper-sigil.
Ooh, the hyper-sigil, the word, the thing. Sorry.
Do you guys like that word or not like that word?
I mean, yeah, we love the Invisibles. We love fiction as magic. We love, it's like, shoot. I mean, I think maybe our gripe is more with people who like
fundamentally misunderstand the idea of it.
Yeah.
What was the running joke we had on the show? It was my Facebook page is a hyper-sigil.
Yeah. Because it's got the hyperlink in it.
Yeah.
So I think hyper-sigils in general, if you're looking at kind of, so like, I look at hyper-sigils from the Morrison Wachter school. I'm assuming you guys do as well.
Oh yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Essentially, you are creating a book of what are lies, right? You are lying about reality. You are creating a narrative in which the things that you would desire to see come to fruition are occurring either to a character or from the narrator, and you are finding a way to infuse that with magical momentum. Is that a decent one, or would you guys like to add to the hyper-sigil description?
That's a pretty solid way of trying to explain it. I'm not gonna nitpick or try to redefine it. That we're cool with that.
Yeah, I have a lot of things I could say about the ways in which we live through fiction and narrative in a general sense, but at other times. So yeah, go ahead.
So my thoughts on it is that hyper-sigils are typically quite immense. You look at something like the Invisibles, it's a big work. If you look at what Wachter recommends, it's the like year-long black book, of journaling and describe like, boy, I had a lot of Choco Tacos today. I hope Choco Tacos come back into production. Me and the boys are eating Choco Tacos all week, and then maybe Choco Tacos get made again. I think poetry can be used in a way as short form hyper-sigil. You can sit down and you have an intention, you have a desire, you have something you're working towards. And instead of just firing off a sigil for it, which is probably all you would really need to do, you can try to craft a reality in which what you need is true and what you need is occurring. But with poems, you can do it a little differently in that when you're making a sigil, you're encoding it. So what I've done before is I begin writing, and I'm focusing. I'm kind of trying to view myself with what it is I need to get done. And while I'm writing that poem, I'm kind of encoding those ideas. I'm allowing the language and the meter to translate my feeling into something on the paper. And I take it a little bit further than I do with drawing a sigil, where I might edit it, I might rearrange it, I might try to fix it into place. And I end up with something where I think I have, because magic is all about, I hate to say it, but magic, there's a lot of vibes in magic. And I want to be able to feel like I've kind of accomplished it. I have written something that is strong enough to be that bowling ball on the saran wrap, and now it's kind of warping things in my favor. And when I found that poem, to be at that point, to be there, I stopped reading it because I don't really want to focus too hard on it. And then I burn it, or I stash it where I'm not going to see it. But the reason I see it as a hyper-sigil more than just sigilization is, as I did this practice more, I discovered that the narrator started to take over. The narrator started to say things, or like phrase things in ways that I didn't necessarily knew I wanted to phrase them. And you begin to create this separate, contained reality into a bottle, and the hopes are is that you can break that bottle and let it out. Does that make any sense at all?
Oh yeah, I love that.
Yeah, no,
that's fantastic.
That's wonderful.
And having gone through, like, anybody who has explored sort of the I don't want to say like role playing as magic, because then it's like, oh, that's LARP, that's just LARP. But I mean the idea of exploring a character or a narrative that you're using for magical purposes, and seeing the slow process of where it goes from engaging with the narrative, or engaging as this character, or engaging in a way of trying to bring this into you, and then that subtle turn where all of a sudden the character writes themselves, the character speaks up for themselves, the narrative continues whether you're interested in continuing it or not, and these things begin to take on a life of their own. That can be an exceptionally, that's a process that I think I've heard many writers talk about that in a more mundane sense, not as like it's taken over my life or something, but just saying the ways in which the story can sort of become an autonomous unit, or characters, when they're written well, take on the life of their own. Ray Bradbury is a great example where he says writing is the process of putting all of these people on a line in a snowfield and then shooting off the starter pistol and seeing the footprints. So it's like when a character or when a story is written well, you don't question where things are going, because just by virtue of what already exists of them, it will say where this is going to go. I think that might be the mark of a well put together narrative, and a well structured story, and in this case a well structured hyper-sigil, that something that begins to take on its own autonomous energy. It tells you things that you weren't expecting.
Yep, and I think one of the advantages of doing it with poetry as opposed to long form work is I'm all about easier magic. I think that takes a little bit less dedication, but I feel like as you go, you kind of can attack different things and look at different, but you're ultimately building a catalog. They're all feeding into each other, and I feel like there's some magical momentum that can be gained with that. And I feel like it's less of a commitment time-wise, but I think it can have very, very similar results as a long-form hyper-sigil, and might be a little bit more targeted. Like, you can use the poems to, aim small, miss small. Whereas with, giant hyper-sigils, you've got to curate the whole thing and keep it balanced. And there's a lot going on in that,
Oh, yeah. Grant Morrison fucked his whole life up with the Invisibles.
Yeah. You don't want your face to fall off. It's
by the end of it, you end up with your own big stack of cantos, and you're like, oh man, this is wild.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel quite so, you didn't start it with the intention of like, oh, I'm going to write this great thing, but you're left with like you said, a catalog. That's a good word for it. What I think it might be really good for, especially if you're someone that is not already like a poet, or you don't consider yourself like a writer in a creative sense or something, what it could do for you is it's in a mundane sense, as it were, it's the discovering of your own sort of
creative voice.
Yeah.
Yeah, your genius, as Crowley would probably call it. This particular aspect of organized madness, chaoticness that formulates into great works of writing. This thing that comes over us and comes out of us. And I think if you do it with, like you said, this sort of hyper-sigilistic intent behind it, it can definitely build into something, because you'll go from someone that just is attempting to write and attempting to build the magical momentum, as Benny was calling it. It will begin to generate the sort of connections that you can develop out of finding a specific practice and really engaging with it. In the same, to circle back to my big dumb quote at the beginning, it's this same primordial sense that the great philosophers and the great poets came out of is the same field that the magicians are coming out of. It's the same imaginative landscape that we are building into the world. This is the place of the shadow between idea and reality.
Yeah. I would recommend maybe trying that. One of the interesting things about hyper-sigil work that I think is it builds a general magical practice that a lot of people don't work on. So like, a lot of people's magical practice, especially sigil work, has a detonation point, right? There's a firing. A lot of people, the stereotypical lens jerking off this, to the sigil, but people burn them. People do, a vacant stare. But there's like the magic is like the action. And one of the things about hyper-sigils in general is that the magic is the creation. It's the essence that you have while you're doing it. And I have found that to be a very useful thing in my own magical practices, to learn to not need to slam a door to get something out, not need to fire something. So working on poetry as a short form hyper-sigils, it has the advantages of learning slight trance work, and it has the advantage of being able to kind of shove something out the window without needing to have a particular action that signifies it's been shoved out the window, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's a very antithetical sort of approach to a lot of chaos magic, because in a certain sense it feels very unpractical, right? It's not as simple as like, oh, well, I have a problem, so I'm going to go find an invocation of a god that deals with these sorts of problems and then ask him to fix it for me. And it's not as immediate as, oh, I want something to happen, so I'm going to make a sigil and I'm going to do a big old thing so I get the big gnosis, and then I'll forget about it and it'll just happen, I'm sure. This is in the vein of the other big hobby horse we talk about on the show here a lot, in the vein of like self-discipline of a magical practice. Developing a hyper-sigil is something that will, again, it's building an actual practice. It's not relegating magic as the immediate problem solver for when things go bad. It's actually developing a rapport with the creative process and the creative aspects of being a magician. I think it's really good. I think it's a really great idea. And doing this through the medium of poetry, it takes out a lot of the, let's just face it, a lot of the hard parts. It's very hard to make an entire comic book that's a hyper-sigil. You got to have an artist or be an artist. It takes hours and hours. Writing long, dense narrative is incredibly hard, and it takes a lot of editing and a lot of work. And granted, I feel like a lot of people get into the hyper-sigil game because they do want to have a big creative undertaking like that, but it's also probably why there's a lot of them that just don't ever really get finished or don't really seem to do a whole lot for the individual, because it's not, like you said, this is a lot more attainable. This is a lot more of something that you can integrate as a regular working class person, and not like some guy who's been hired by OpenAI to write poetry to teach the AI not to, smack babies or whatever.
Agreed.
I always want to leave the listener with an empowering message, and we've been telling you to do stuff, and I'm sure many of you are like, look, I mean, all right, you guys managed to win me over. I didn't tune out when you guys started reading poetry at me, but I'm not going to go write no poetry. I'm not no poet. But so I figured I'd read this to you real quick. Every man, woman, and child, no matter how illiterate, is an artist in one way or another, if he or she has an urge to make things. Every maker is a creator of one thing or another. Every creator is a specialist of one sort or another. This urge to make things is felt by the artist and translated into an aesthetic emotion, which is felt or appreciated by those who have the awareness to respond to it and understand it, even though they may have no desire to produce it themselves. It is produced for them by the artist as an aesthetic echo, not through his or their intellect, but by his and their feeling. It is communicated by the artist and shared by the people. It is the vision of the artist conveyed in his work. This vision of the artist is reflected in his work as the record of his experience. This experience is a work of art. It cannot be explained in words. It has a language of its own, peculiar to itself and not found in the lexicon of logicians. This language is rather an idiom of the heart, spoken and understood by every man, woman, and child, no matter how illiterate, if he or she has an urge to make things, or an awareness in response to that which is made, be it drama, painting, sculpture, poetry, writing, music, or architecture.
Yeah, that's the goods. That is true.
That is from Fragments by Samuel Iwas Jacobs,
It's
typesetter for E.E. Cummings, and possibly the person that dictated Crowley's Book of the Law, I guess, you know, if you're interested in that sort of thing. But
as I said before, I kind of do a lot of my magical practice involves magic for other people. So I've got a large amount of talismans that I have to make, and I am currently working on a class that I'm doing next week called Hex Education, Malefic Fuckery from Modern Times. And it's a class in which I am expounding some malefic and baneful works of my own device. Very much from the postmodern lens. Beyond that, I've been trying to talk Venus from Discord into making a new school Lenormand deck with me, with his art, and then like a new guidebook and changing some of the meaning. I don't know if anyone's caught on, but a lot of my magic is based around creation of stuff. So yeah, I've been making stuff, so I'm a happy guy.
hell yeah.
You said that the new class that you're working on is like hex based.
Yeah, it's all malefic work.
Now there was a method that you were talking to us about using hex and the use of language.
Yeah, kind of similar.
You want to tell us about it?
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of malefic practice that I call slip word hexing. Slip, S-L-I-P, slip word hexing. If the listeners would want to learn about hexing, if you think I could give the rundown on how to do it.
Yeah. Give us the broad strokes.
The broad strokes. So slip word hexing, this is very inspired by a guy that no one's heard of called William S. Burroughs, who came up with some very unique hexing styles. And I've been into slip word hexing for quite a while, and I kind of wanted to make my own postmodern approach to hexing, so that's what it is. So slip word hexing is the first thing you need is a target. So we all know love and light. You know, you're not supposed to hex people, but it's cool. It actually is cool to do. That's a great way to get the bad vibes out of you and put them where they belong.
Yeah, sometimes it's needed.
Sometimes it's very necessary. So the way slip word hexing works is the first thing is a creation of a word. So you can either use an existing word or you can make a word up. But I would say to try to not make it a funny word. Like if you use like ball sack, it's not going to work. You want to use a word that has maybe a serious tone or a spooky tone to it. Kennedy, would you like to give me a word?
Masticate.
Masticate. There it is. Masticate is our word. So what you would do is you would write masticate down on a piece of paper. While you're writing that, you would think about the different things that you are targeting upon the person that this is being aimed at. And you would kind of do some Greek sympathetic magic where you're going to create a bit of a petition. You're going to write those things around it, right? So it's like, you know, When I hex people, I like to hex the space that they occupy within. I like to make people disoriented and disheveled and nauseous and confused and their equilibrium to be fucked up. Because like I'm not trying to kill anybody, but I want them to feel pretty badly. So I'm really trying to attack their sense of wellness and their sense of comfort in the spaces that they occupy. So you would write those things around it, and then the next steps are a bit up to you. So you can do that, and you can maybe put them in a jar. You could take that piece of paper, jar it with some prolific stuff. You could burn it. You can do whatever you feel makes it extra nasty and mean. And then we get on to the utilization of that word. So the way you do it is a mix of different styles, but you're going to use that slip word on the target. So different ways you can do that is obviously never break any laws, but you could call them or have someone call them. There's plenty of payphones still out there in the world, or there's plenty of ways to have a different phone number for your phone, but you would call them and you would just say the word. So Kennedy, you can be the target. Ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Masticate. Hang up.
Oh, well, that's mildly concerning. Probably nothing.
Have someone else do it.
Ring, ring, ring.
Yeah. Masticate. Hang up. Have another person do it. If you have their email address, make a new email address.
That's what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking.
Send them an email, and in the title or the what's it called? You know, the part they see. Masticate.
The subject, yeah.
The subject. Masticate. If they're local, maybe have a friend drive by their house one night and yell the word masticate.
Scream it at them.
Maybe mail them a letter that when they open it, people always open letters that have handwritten addresses on them.
Yeah, they always do. They always do.
Always open them. Masticate. I've done it where if I know how they drive to work, or if I know where they drive, or if I know the street they live on, well, I do this thing where sometimes I use spray paint to put things on things that aren't supposed to have things on them.
Don't break the law, of course, but
yeah, don't break the law. If they're driving to work and now they see that word masticate, maybe you leave a piece of paper on their doorstep with the word masticate, and you just keep hammering them with that word over and over through any process you can figure out. I guarantee you they're going to feel exactly what you want them to feel.
I absolutely love this technique. It is the work of a warped mind, and I absolutely love it. Driving you insane soon.
There's other ways. So it's hard when they're far away, but if they're local enough, there's a situation where you could maybe know places they go or where they work and have a random person walk in while they're working and just lean over to them and whisper, masticate, and then turn around and walk out. They're not going to be doing well after that.
Oh, no, they're definitely not. And even so, I think even if there's someone that's far away and you have to do it through like only one or two means, I think just the repetition of it will clearly get to them.
Yeah.
By the time the congressman's office gets the 85th letter in the last 2 months with just the word, with at the very top, it says for the consideration of congressman, whatever, and then just the word masticate.
Masticate.
They're gonna be fucking flipping.
One of the additional things that I like about the slip word hexing, and this is something that someone had brought up to me that they had realized. So it was someone that I had done the slip word working with, blah, 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 blah. They heard the word randomly in public. Now, this wasn't the target. This is someone who had made it, done this. But they heard the word and they immediately associated it. They're like, oh, fuck, that's the word I used to hex somebody. Imagine being that guy and you're watching TV and the word masticate pops up. You're fucking wrecked. Like, you're done. So, yeah, the important parts of that one are, as you would infuse a sigil or whatever, make sure you make that word nasty and then just don't give up. Magic is all about determination. Magic is all about pushing forward. And magic is about doing things until you get the result. So if your result is to make them feel really, really, really strange and bad, you keep on hammering them.
Remember, folks, a magical working doesn't fail until you decide it's not worth it anymore.
Yep.
Co-host, what about you? What are you doing?
It's been Ramadan.
It has been Ramadan.
It's been Ramadan. God is great. It's important to take moments to give yourself a good hearty dose of self-discipline and putting it up to a spiritual purpose. I've never gone whole hog on Ramadan before, and by that I mean I've never done the full duration, and I've never done the foregoing of water throughout the day. And I will just say that I'm thankful that it's happening in the period of February to March rather than heading into the summer, No,
I could not fucking do it.
It's been a very fulfilling time for me, and I've been exploring Corbin. I've been talking about the past few episodes, and his fascination with Islam as a whole, but particularly the Sufi and the sort of Gnostic influences within Islam. And I've found a great many interesting things in his work, along with the observances that go along with this very holy time. I've mentioned before that I notice when I'm neglecting my meditation practices, like particularly the body work and stuff like that, because I kind of become an asshole. Like I know my personality and I become a lot more easily agitated. And when you have a very strong, like, hey, you got to do this multiple times a day while you're doing this other stuff, and it's like, this is super duper important, it really it gives you a really rigid discipline for it. But the counter of that is that it's like, yeah, you're being very strict with yourself of like, I've got to do this. But you also see the benefits. You realize that it's like, well, taking out multiple times through my day for me to do these sort of meditative and devotional practices does a lot for me, So that's been very nice. We've got another maybe 11-ish days of Ramadan, and then Lent is another 10 days after that. I think I'm going to continue till Holy Week. It's good stuff. What about you?
Well, I have also been engaging with Ramadan in my own way. I'm really using it as an opportunity to take on some commitment and self-discipline. I'd mentioned it on the show before and in the Discord that usually I'm a very regular person when it comes to magical practice. I'm very regimented. I do the same stuff every single day. And if I have a big project sort of thing that I'm working on, I'm doing that as well. And after the holidays this year, it was a struggle for me to get back to it. It was a whole lot of like, what am I doing? And just being exhausted from working too much, and not to complain about it because I love you all, but like editing all the stuff for the show had taken up a large portion of my time while I was already exhausted. So I just kind of fell off a lot of my regular stuff. So it was a good excuse to get back into the swing of that. I'm still on the same sort of stuff that I've been on for the last year. I'm just very heavily focused on the body as the locus of magical practice, as trying to do magic that is very grounded and practical and works without it having to get so deep into spooky metaphysical territory of, like literally so much of my practice right now is just doing stuff with the body, saying things, moving in certain ways. And I mean, it works great. Right now, again, because it is Ramadan, I have also tried to have a lot of focus on sort of the nature of transcendence for someone like me, where I'm not really hard-lined on there's a big spooky guy at the end of the universe that's going to give me the big T metaphysical truth, but there is certainly an experience of transcendence that is there to be grasped. And again, I feel like it's probably the same areas that things like poetry and the magical experience in general come out of, this sort of wellspring of the imagination of what is possible, and the work of grounding that together with, I'll be on this for a while now because I've liked it, the shadow that's in between. That's really where most of what I'm doing is right now. And part of my Ramadan commitments was also like I was gonna do one act of magic every day just because. And that's been fun because I've just come up with like it doesn't even matter if it's super important or not, but I've just been like, all right, fuck, I'm going to do some magic to get this to happen. My favorite one so far is I left for work incredibly late one day, and I just knew I was going to be late. And I won't say how I did it exactly, but I essentially, with reference to the powers of the body, was like, can I get a little help here? Can I just show up on time? And the fucking streets cleared themselves to get me where I had to go. It was beautiful.
Well, yeah,
and I
because you
was-
were jacking off in your car. People were getting out of your way. I get away from the eye. Help! Help! He's aiming out the window.
Oh my God.
You dirty
Goodness
bastard.
gracious.
What's wrong with you?
What's wrong with you? Why are you like this?
You got to get all these awful things out while the sun's down.
That's not how Ramadan works.
Are you sure?
The sun goes down and now I can just like commit crime.
For the next 10 hours, all crime is legal.
Happy Ramadan.
No, that's the problem. I haven't been swearing. I've been trying to have like good thoughts and not speak ill of people and all sorts
See,
of
you
stuff.
did it so much more than I did. I just committed to the not eating or drinking water aspects of it. Fucking, I'm not.
Well, the good news is that when you don't drink water, it's a lot harder to talk bad about people because you don't want to talk at all, waste that precious moisture.
Okay.
Oh man.
All right.
All right, man. Shoot. Well, with all of that,
This has been Chaos Magic News.
the only podcast that is hoping that you don't get abducted by a pod of dolphins. And if you would like to learn their underwater language and hear the miraculous poetry of the porpoise, you could find some of it at chaosmagicnews.com. I mean, not really, but you will be able to find links to the pod, links to our interview series, the occasional article for your perusal. We're also on social media at Chaos Magic News on Facebook and Instagram. We are at CMN Pod on Blue Sky. And if you have enjoyed this show and you want to know, how can I just get more of this? As if the backlog of episodes isn't enough, you could find all of the lovely bonus Patreon content where we do watch-alongs to old Satanic Panic TV programs. We did the Cult Iceberg. We did readings of things like Magic Without Tears and the Zoetic Grimoire. Just lovely little bonus materials that can be yours for $5 a month, and also with the knowledge that you are helping support the objectively best occult podcast on the net. And not only that, you get your name read right here.
Thank you, Cios93. Thank you, Pope Loki Seder the 23rd LLC. Thank you, Supremely. Thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Acolyte 1 of the Ice Magic Meditation Society. Thank you, Curse T. Thank you, Freydor Krasny. Thank you, Venus Christ. Thank you, Tent Athena. Thank you, Bearded Vegan. Thank you, Tremov. Thank you, Tangy Darling. Thank you, DD Destruction. Thank you, Toziel Obscurus. Thank you, Lavender Ghost. Thank you, Tommy Kelly. Thank you, Clodius. Thank you, Cyrenix Flux. Thank you, Eric the Wizard. Thank you, Marcio Mendoza. Thank you, Archaic. Thank you, Sneaky Llama. Thank you, Melius. Thank you, Coffin Emoji, Sparkle Emoji. Thank you, Eli Cash. Thank you, Mother Hysteria. Thank you, Rowan of Birch Groves. Thank you, me. Thank you, Inko. Thank you, the Frog from Chrono Trigger. Thank you, Eamon Nux. Thank you, Benny. Thank you, Lapsod. Thank you, Flint Dibble. Thank you, Tara. Thank you, Helicon. Thank you, Timo Sidon. Thank you, Endocrine Bandit. Thank you, Ayatollah AGP93. Thank you, Jesse Smith. And thank you, Salab.
That list gets longer all
I think
the
this time I just
and we thank you
spontaneously
for
kept
it.
going for it. That's my hyper sigil. I'm going to just add fake names and they'll
Add
become
more
real
names.
patrons.
I like that. That's the goods.
Just keep adding names until they become true. Yes, very Puss in Boots. But no, for real, for all the people that do pay their crisp Lincoln every month, it really does mean the world. It helps. So this is what helps clear the overhead on the show and helps us branch out a little bit more to do more exciting things for you guys. And just, like I said, the support means the world. And even if you're not paying, if it doesn't matter if you've given us any money. If you've listened this far in, I'll kiss you on the forehead. You're amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, we really appreciate all the support y'all give us. And
God, especially because, and hopefully, we just had that big Darling thing blow up, so maybe we'll get a lot more folks. If this is your first foray into the show, I love you to death. You're amazing.
Have you guys ever listed people that don't subscribe to the Patreon for $5 a month? Like Jeffrey Dahmer does he?
you know what? You would be surprised.
Okay.
You know,
I
at
was
some
gonna
at
say,
some point, it's going to become quicker to just list the people that aren't paying the $5 for the Patreon.
Gotcha.
Okay. Well, all of that said, thank you so much. Benny, thank you for coming on and talking with us. This has been really
Thank you
fucking
for having
fun.
me.
This has been one of the better episodes.
I know you're up to your ears in commission work right now, but is there anything that you do want to plug? Do you want to plug your Instagram or anything? Or
Sure. If you want to follow my Instagram, it's with.hidden.noise. There's not much on there. I'm always too busy making and being behind schedule, but it's always good to connect with people. And sometimes I do like update a story. I'm not really trying to sell anything, but sometimes I put like a cool thing I made on there, so you can look at that.
oh, and not only that, if you want to rub elbows with us or with really cool people like Benny, we've got a Discord that you can find. It's an open link. Come on in. The water's fine. Benny, would you like the last word?
Yeah, sure. I'll take it. The last word is I think magic is easy, and it's easy for everybody. And that's it.
Powerful
Fantastic.
message. Beautiful message. Thank you all so much for listening. We will see you next time.
All right. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. When I was like in school, like for poetry and stuff, like when they would teach you how to do like readings, like public readings and stuff, and focus on meter, we used to like practice with like gangster rap lyrics, and like try to
Really?
make them like sound super poetic. Yes, like West Side Connection. So it'd be like, I know you're Catholic, but can you have dick up in them guts, all the way to these nuts? You know what I mean? Like you'd like read or guess like.
Oh,
That's how we
I love
practice.